Alrighty, I think we are at that magic hour, or magic half hour. So I will call us to order, and we'll start with roll call. So I'm here. Councillor Walters?
Yes, present,
See
Mr.
you
Chair.
there. Councillor Banga?
I am here, sir.
Councillor Hamilton?
Good afternoon.
Afternoon. Councillor Paquette?
I am here for the most exciting committee there ever is.
I've been looking forward to this for months. Councillor McKean?
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
And just looking to see who else we might have. Mr. Beckett's on the line, and anybody else from council? Sorry, my screen is not giving me. Councillor Cartmel had said he was going to try and join us, but maybe he'll be here after. I'm not seeing him yet. All right, so I think that is all of us. So welcome, everybody. Would somebody like to move adoption of the agenda?
Moved. So moved.
So just so we understand, because if you have it in front of you, we're going to hear the non-regulated 6.4, 6.5, 6.
Point of privilege. Could you ask Aaron to mute himself?
Sure. And I suspect he heard that. I'm just looking at what we're supposed to be, when we do the agenda, the idea is to hear 6.4, 6.5, 6.6, and 6.7 together. Oh. But I thought the waste pieces were going together as well. No? Did you want to hear the waste pieces together? 6.1, 6.2. So the suggestion is we hear 6.1, 6.2, and 6.3 together, and then 6.4, 6.5, 6.6, and 6.7 together, and then FCOR can be all by itself. Is that the agenda that you meant to move? I think it was.
Yes.
Yeah, good. All right. Did you want us to use our handy devices, or can I just... Yeah, we'd like to use the devices, so please vote.
We have all the votes, Mr.
We have all
Chair.
the votes. Please display the vote. And that has passed. Why are there 6 of us? Sorry? Okay, I don't think I think he told me he wasn't going to be able to join us this afternoon, so. All right, adoption of the minutes. Any concerns about the minutes? Somebody would like to move them then, please?
So moved.
Okay, Councillor Paquette, please vote.
And we have all the votes except for Councillor Banga's.
Councillor Banga?
For some reason, it didn't flash
okay.
on my.
I'm guessing
Screen,
you're a
but-
yes.
Yes.
All right, please display the vote. And that has passed, all 6 of us. I'm still, my numbers are not adding up that way. That's all right. Any protocol items? Hearing none, if we could select items for debate. I'm guessing, given that they've all been put together, that we probably want all of them. Is that a fair assumption? Okay, let's assume that they're all selected. I think we have a speaker on the first set. I know I have questions on the other 2, so. All right, so let's assume everything's selected. So there's nothing to vote on then, or do we need to vote on, no, we need to vote on the revised due dates. Anybody have any concern about the revised due dates? Somebody would like to move that then, please?
Sure.
So moved.
Yeah.
Councillor Banga, please vote.
We're good to go, Mr. Chair.
Please display the vote, and that has passed.
Did they do 5-1 and 2? And Mr. Chair, if I may, was the request to speak approved?
No, I'm going to do that in a
Thank
sec.
you.
Yep. So if you could just, Mr. Clerk, read back to us what we have already done.
Thank you. This afternoon, Utility Committee has approved revised due dates for the following items. Item 5.1, 2018 Performance-Based Progress Report, Cost of Services Service Study Update. The revised due date is February 5th, 2021. And item 5.2, Home Adaptation Strategies and Programs Update and Analysis, with a revised due date of August 27th, 2021.
Great, thank you. So we have one request to speak. If someone
Yes,
would like to
Mr.
move
Chair. I move that Utility Committee hear from the following speaker on item 6.1, Waste Fiscal Policy, and that would be Donna Monkhouse from Alberta Residential Landlord Association.
Great, thank you. Please vote on that.
We are good to go, Mr. Chair.
Great, and please display the vote. And that has passed. There are no requests, I believe, for time specific. We will do them in the order in which they appear. Are there any councillor inquiries? I didn't receive anything, so I assume there are none. Great. Okay, so we will leap now into a presentation, I believe, on 6.1, 6.2, and 6.3 altogether.
Have to load me up. I've got the presentation in front of me. No, I'll control it. It's on screen here, but it's not up there.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairperson, members of Utility Committee, members of Council, and all other attendees that are here for the discussion today. This afternoon, we'll be presenting the Waste Services 2021 utility rate filing and the required budget adjustments to move forward with the implementation of our 25-year waste strategy. With me today is Michael Lebrec, our branch manager of Waste Services Utility. Also with us today is Santosha Pukatin, our acting operational controller, and online we have Ms. Jody Goebel, our director of the waste strategy. Also present this afternoon to assist is Ms. Pearson, from Financial Corporate Services. The utility rate filing follows the 2021 to 2022 Waste Services Business Plan, which was approved in October, and proposes operational and capital budget adjustments aligned to deliver on the waste services goals, which are making transformational impacts, delivering excellent services, and managing the corporation. One additional report is noted in the presentation, the Waste Services Fiscal Policy. This report is discussed in the rate filing and presented today for your consideration. We also have linked in the non-regulated loan repayment report. The 2020 or the 25-year waste strategy guides the utility's transformational system changes and ongoing improvements intended to deliver excellent service. Waste Services continues to remain focused on waste reduction and the alignment to the zero waste framework for all sectors in the City of Edmonton. The strategy outlines how to optimize the system and improve services at every level, delivering high value to our residents, all while maintaining a consistent, stable rate. We are confident that the waste strategy will enable...
Mr. Chair, point of privilege, Mr. Chair. Can this presentation be put on our main screen? I just can't see it unless others can. I just see the little tiny...
Yeah, if we
So,
could.
no.
Is it possible to pin it to the main screen? Great, thanks.
There you go.
I don't know if it's been sent
Many
out to
thanks.
people as well, has it? It's been
Yeah,
emailed
no,
to
but-
you as well.
The strategy outlines how to optimize the system and improve services at every level, delivering high value to our residents, all while maintaining a consistent, stable rate. We're confident that the waste strategy will enable a better life for all Edmontonians by improving the experiences of both residents and employees. The waste strategy aligns with the guiding principles described in the way the city is being reimagined, the Connect Edmonton plan, as well as the new city plan. Residential waste rates cover a range of services that are part of the waste system and include more than just waste collection. Specifically, waste rates contribute to environmentally responsible waste sorting, processing, and disposal, including composting and waste-to-biofuels operation. Also included are 21 community recycling depots, 4 eco-stations for household hazardous waste and residential waste drop-off, our Big Bin community events for the collection of large items, the Reuse Center for small reusable household items, as well as other numerous waste education programs. I'll now turn the presentation over to Mr. Lebrecht to speak more about the 2021 utility rate filing and the proposed rates.
Thanks, Gord. Thanks, Gord. I'd like to start with looking at both the historical and future utility rates, and I think the committee has seen this graph before. The rate outlook to 2024 anticipates the following. The cost of the citywide source-separated organics program, which includes carts, trucks, and program support. A realigned capital spend to prioritize organics processing facilities and the materials recovery facility, and a renewed focus on asset management. The rate was reduced to 0.3% in April 2020 as a result of COVID and the recommendation to delay the rollout of the CART program. For 2024, administration is recommending to hold the rate to 0%, and that means essentially we'll be delivering our services in 2021 for essentially the same impact the ratepayers were paying back in 2019. And if we're able to hold the rate through to 0% into 2022, that would mean a 13 cents over the 4 years in this current budget cycle. So we'll be making the largest change to service in a generation and moving to 4-stream separation from 2-stream separation. As already noted, for 2021, the utility is proposing to hold the rate at 0. 2021 operational costs are anticipated to be lower than the 2020 budget. Monthly rates will begin to vary between customers in October based on their cart size selection. The long-term goal remains to keep waste utility increases stable and consistent. Service delivery transformation will start in 2021 when approximately 236,000 single-unit residential households will move to a 4-stream program with separate food scraps collection, seasonal yard waste, and garbage volume limits as opposed to as part of the Edmonton CART rollout. Finally, the utility continues to focus on revenue potential opportunities and asset optimization, and the rates downstream reflect that. As part of the 25-year strategy and the 2021 to 2024 business plan, the utility has placed greater emphasis on delivering strategic program changes through focused prioritization of the capital projects. In the current budget cycle, a total of $187 million has been allocated to 16 capital profiles, including funding for the significant multi-year profiles such as source-separated organics, the OPF as we know it, vehicle and equipment replacement, and the branch's capital program will continue with appropriately balancing growth, process efficiency improvements, rehabilitation, and regulatory requirements. And with the recent approval of the business case for the Mercurials Recovery Facility and the Refuse-Derived Fuel Facility, those business cases were approved this year. Those are as well in the projection, in the capital plan. So Waste Services is proposing one new standalone capital profile, and it's at the back of the rate filing itself. And the profiling includes the estimated capital required to collect, process, and convert landfill gas into renewable natural gas. It's been included in the rate filing for rate forecasting purposes only. However, no funds will be requested until a detailed business case is brought forward for approval in the first quarter of 2021, and we're expecting to do that, Mr. Chair, in February. The changes to the operating budget and the utility rates are part of an ongoing efforts to assess and manage revenues and expenditures for the Waste Services utility, which form the basis of the 2021 rate filing. Single unit residential customers will transition from hand collection rate to cart rates based on the size of the garbage cart, the black cart. Cart rates will take effect in October of 2021 once the carts have been distributed to all the residents. The main purpose of the cart is to incentivize residents to produce less waste. And I'll remind the committee that part of our path to 90% includes waste volumes reductions by about 10%. The chart outlines the proposed rates and the associated increase or decrease based on the cart selection size. And you can see them there for the 120-liter cart, the 240, and the 360. There will be a rigorous application process for the 360-liter cart. We've included in here as a rethink for our excess waste program. It'll only be available to the residents that meet specific criteria such as medical reasons or large family size. And we'll be asking residents at the curb to start with the 240, and then 6 weeks after that, they'll have an opportunity to look at the possibility of a 360-liter cart. The bin collection rates remain unchanged. The multi-unit customers affected by the transition rate will see a small increase as these rates are transitioning over 5 years. And I'll remind the committee that those are for the 27,000 homes that have to transition out of the current state. And now, moving on to the Waste Services fiscal policy. The utility completed a review of its fiscal policy during 2020. A benchmarking study of municipally owned utilities was conducted for this review, and it concluded that the debt-to-net assets ratio was not used by any of the surveyed utilities. Almost all utilities use a debt service coverage ratio to measure their ability to meet debt obligations. Highlights of the proposed changes include removing debt-to-net assets as a financial indicator, and the addition of a new financial indicator, the debt service coverage ratio, and addition of rate-setting principles to provide guidance in establishing customer rates. These proposed changes will track similar measures as other municipally owned utilities, provide better financial guidance to administration, and will align the waste fiscal policy with other City of Edmonton policies. As noted in the table, the forecasted debt-to-net assets ratio falls outside the target range, and this indicator target has not been met since Waste Services became a utility. Instead of adjusting the target range, the utility is recommending replacing the debt-to-net assets ratio with debt service coverage ratio as a financial indicator. Debt service coverage measures the ability of the utility to cover its debt obligations through utility revenues. The new indicator aligns with other municipally owned utilities, and the target of less than 22% aligns with the restrictive debt service limits outlined under the city's debt management fiscal policy. That's all I have, Mr. Chair. happy to hear questions.
Great, thank you very much. Well, before we get to questions of you, we have a speaker, which is always fabulous at this committee. We love people to come and weigh in on this. We don't get it very often, I confess. So, Ms. Monkhouse, we are all ears for the next 5 minutes.
Okay.
If you have a chance, if you can keep track of your time yourself, because I will have to cut you off at the end of 5 minutes, and although we have a timer here, you won't be able to see it unless you have your own way of timing yourself. So the next 5 minutes are yours.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, councillors. My name is Donna Monkhouse, and I am the Executive Director of the Alberta Residential Landlord Association. ARLA, founded in 1994, is a membership-based not-for-profit association that is dedicated to strengthening the residential rental industry by educating, uniting, and advocating for landlord members and related service members. ARLA represents approximately 90,000 primary and secondary units and growing in Edmonton and surrounding areas. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today to the Council on the waste management issue. We are aware that waste services is an essential part of the city plan. Waste Services' goal is to support and encourage Edmontonians, businesses, and institutions in their waste management practices. We understand that organics are going to be part of this plan and accept that. However, the increases in costs to the multifamily will cause further strain on our already strained financial positions. We remind you that it is less expensive to service multi-residential housing, fewer services. We remind you that these stakeholders are the very same people that sit on many of the city's housing initiatives and are willing to help. Multi-unit is not in the same category as single unit and should be treated as part of the business sector. The city made comment that to avoid rate shock for these customers, referring to multi-unit customers, Waste Services intends to adjust the rates from the multi-unit rate to the single unit rate over a period of 5 years. This would mean an increase of over $15 per unit per month extra to the multifamily landlord. How can this be justified for a service we could source at a much lower rate? Not only saving us money, but keeping Edmonton business going, citizens being able to afford their rent, and landlords the ability to look at developing more units because maybe there would be some positive cash flow. This is a win-win situation for everyone. The Alberta Residential Landlord Association has been following the issue on waste management since the city began monopolizing the multifamily waste and recycling collections and rates many years ago. At the onset, the cost to provide the services were competitive or even below market. Over time, these costs became much higher than market prices for the same service. The city's new 25-year plan will bind multifamily dwelling owners and managers to an even more onerous structure that will cost much more than the private sector. ARLA is going to simply ask the City of Edmonton to allow the multifamily industry to have the option to opt out of the city waste collection and proceed with a private sector contractor for their waste services, such as what was honored to the ICI sector this past May. In speaking with some of our members, we know that we can get all our services, including organics, at a far lower cost and one that will meet our needs and help our landlord members reduce their expenses, much like what the city is working on now with reducing their expenses. We've received feedback from property owners and managers from other cities, like Calgary, that have adopted a waste recycling organics policy and bylaw. The City of Edmonton has inflated the multifamily rates to the point where private industry can provide these services for a fraction of the city's price. The city had done engagement sessions on the 25-year plan, but they didn't want to talk about the cost of service. The city, to their credit, has been open and transparent on what the monthly fee charges are, but when asked why the multifamily sector has been paying for services that have not been received, we have yet to receive a response. The multi-unit sector has been paying $31.37 per unit per month, vacant or not, to the City of Edmonton for waste removal. The breakdown of these costs includes one for organics processing at $5.53 per unit per month. This equates to over $13 million annually to the City of Edmonton for a service that we have not been provided. We await the city's response on this. The private sector currently services half the city by RFP at lower rates now, and we simply do not get the benefit of that. The City of Edmonton needs to realize they simply cannot provide the same service at equal or lower rates. In the City of Edmonton's current waste management utility fiscal policy, number 1 states, the utility is to be operated in a manner that balances the best possible service at the lowest possible cost while employing private sector approaches to rate setting. The city is no longer providing this at a reasonable cost. Number 2 states the utility is exempt from a local access fee, as the utility does not have exclusive rights to the waste collection and disposal market, nor does it have exclusive use of the roadways. I would ask for clarification on this. Multifamily owners and property managers deserve the respect as a business in the city of Edmonton and the same courtesy that the ICI sector was given. The city of Edmonton would save on many of their expense lines if they would please allow the multifamily sector to opt out and source an open market service provider that meets the 25-year plan. It could be a win-win for both parties. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have some questions now. Councillor Paquette?
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. I'm getting some feedback. Someone's mic is on. So, thank you for that presentation. You made a few assertions that I found interesting, and I'm just wondering if you have that information on competitive rates. Can you send that to us?
I certainly can.
Okay, thank you. And that applies to Edmonton, or is this just the Calgary example?
It applies to Edmonton and Calgary. The same suppliers are there that are here. I have one right now, organics, for a full collection, and it's one of our board members. Collection of waste, recycling, and organics in Calgary is averaging about $12.60 a door. So I will certainly send you examples.
I'd appreciate that, because the way that Calgary calculates their waste services, I think, is a little bit different than Edmonton. And so we'll have to get that comparator. And also we'd have to sort of take a look at what the real costs are across the board. So if the private contractors are utilizing city services in some way, or there could be many variables, so we'll have to take a look at that. But I really appreciate what you had to say, and
thank you.
As someone who is a very poor student, paying utilities in an apartment building, I very much empathize with the words that you spoke today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Walters.
Thanks. I'm not sure I understand what Councillor Paquette means by being a poor student. There's a couple ways. Double meaning. But clearly he's on city council, so he had to get excellent grades.
It wasn't my math that made it hard to pay bills.
Sorry, Ms. Monkhouse, could you repeat the numbers, the ratio of, how, like you said it was 10 times more expensive? Sorry, I didn't catch that. So with the increased rates under the new filing, how much more is our charge than you get in an opted out private sector situation?
So currently we're paying $31.37 per unit per month, vacant or not vacant.
31.
Okay, so that's one. So, and we could probably source the same services here for anywhere from $12.60, which is some of the rates I've heard already here. And the reason we have to source out our pricing, so I may not be able to get Edmonton pricing for you because we haven't got the ability to do that here, but I do have Calgary rates, surrounding area rates, and there are a few of our members that are opted out. They were able to opt out of the City of Edmonton Waste Program for various reasons. So I will get as many rates as I can for you, yeah but it's difficult, I'll get price comparisons for you, but I'm going to tell you that we can probably source that for at least half the cost, if not lower.
So it's certainly really interesting to look at from a rate perspective in terms of not, being too forceful from our end. But the other question is the diversion piece, which is a big part of the City of Edmonton's goals.
Yep.
And so now, I hear from the private waste, those other folks that you could contract with, that they share our same objectives largely in terms of diverting waste, for the most part, diverting waste from landfill. At least that's, what I hear. So would it be, and I'd ask our administration this question, but if the same diversion targets were somehow baked into that ability to opt out, maybe say a little bit about how flexible you'd be there, or interested you'd be in that.
Oh, we would absolutely be flexible on that. We understand there's going to be an organic processing section. We understand that, and we're willing to work with you on that. That's not the issue.
You still support stream separation, and
How are they doing it with the ICI sector? How are they allowing that? They have to do the same thing for them. So have they provided a protocol to the ICI sector private haulers to do this same work?
well, not that I'm aware of.
How are they doing it then?
Right?
Yeah.
Is that we can't. It's not regulated, so we can't. It's all relationships and encouragement. And I think that, we all, like I've said before, the Mother Earth doesn't distinguish between unregulated and regulated waste. It's we need to all be working together, both on the ICI side, the regulated side, both single family and multifamily. So I think this is a good question that you raised, and I do hear what you're saying about cost, and I think that there's an opportunity for us to discuss cost plus ensuring that we can still meet those targets in our strategy. And we can talk about that with admin. So I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Thank you.
Maybe just to jump in, because I think there's some things, and I'll ask these questions of administration, because I think there's some confusion here about what's happening. Because by my reading of what's here, in actual fact, the collection for multi-unit is not going to change. It is a 0% increase like everybody else. So there'll be no change for everybody that has a bin and has the bin picked up. The cost is not going to change. And I'll confirm that with admin, but they're giving me the thumbs up, but I'll ask the question out loud when we get there. Because I think one of the things that's got confused here is under our old bylaw, anything over a certain number of units was considered multi-unit. And the reality was for a lot of townhouses, they were being considered multi-unit. They were being charged the multi-unit rate, which is less than the single-family rate. But because they were townhouses, we weren't picking up bins. We were picking up garbage at their door as if they were single-family. Those are the only ones that are changing. Those are the ones that will be scaled up over the next few years. So it actually does not. It only dealing with people that were getting one service and paying for a different one, and those are the only rates I think right now that are changing. And we keep on hearing that everybody thinks we're going to be scaling up all multi-unit, and I'll confirm this with admin, but that's my understanding. So just right now, I don't think you need to panic about those increases. The increases are only going to things like townhouses, which I don't think are the units you're talking about, who are getting their garbage picked up in their garbage cans like everybody else and will be now getting a cart. We will charge them for that instead of what we used to do, which was the bin rate, which I think had an unfairness built into it. Would you agree with that?
Well, I do know that one, the multi-unit rate that I'm speaking of. I do appreciate that there's no increase next year. That's a great thing. Thank you.
And we're not planning on an increase.
Well, they were talking in the reports that I was reading. It said over the next 5 years, they're going to scale up the multi-units to meet the single unit pricing.
No,
so
that's what I'm trying to clarify. That's only for those units that are getting single unit service.
Okay, that we need to clarify.
Yeah,
that.
right. So, and I'll ask that question, but I think there's been a lot of confusion about that. I think what's going to happen with the other multi-units, and I'll ask this question as well, is we're still in conversation about how to do the shift that we need to do, and nothing is set. So at this point, nothing's changing and nothing is planned to be changed until more discussion happens with the multi-unit owners. And the same is true of the ICI sector. We are still talking to them about how we meet our targets, and something will change there as well. What that looks like, we don't know. But all of those conversations, I'll get that confirmed by administration, but my understanding is all of those things are still in conversation. So I just thought it was worth jumping in to make sure, because I think there may have been some confusion there that was worth clearing up. I'll confirm it with admin when we go to them in a minute. But just to double check that's your concern is that the bin price, it's, when we come and pick up your bin, that's going to change, and I'm pretty sure that isn't the case. And what we do in the future and how we deal with this is still very much part of an ongoing conversation, which I'm guessing also gives you some comfort. Yeah? Okay, good. Great, thanks. I think those are all the questions. Oh, you have Councillor Paquette on again?
Yeah, just really quickly, this might be of some comfort, and so I'll just put it to our speaker. In 2019, the Waste Services bylaw was updated to allow for customers to be charged in alignment with their service type. So based on a review, approximately 9,500 households were reclassified from the multi-unit rate to the single unit rate beginning in 2020, and approximately 15,900 will be reclassified this coming spring. So to avoid rate shock for these customers, Waste Services intends to adjust the rates from the multi-unit rate to the single unit rate over a period of 5 years. And that's sort of your contention. You'd like that time period shortened.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I see. But as you know, it's an effort that's already underway. So I really do appreciate you coming to speak. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you guys hearing me. This isn't the last you'll see of me either, so there you go. This is a huge issue for our landlords, huge.
Yeah.
I'll be back, don't worry.
And I'll just say, if Councillor Paquette, is that it? Yep.
Yeah, that's it. Just wanted to make that
I'll just say in closing, and now we'll go to questions of administration. We had a very similar presentation. I was going to raise this issue anyway, because we had a very similar presentation given to us in the budget public hearing yesterday. Some of the same issues were raised, so thank you for reiterating them here. This is the right place to bring those questions. It was hard for us to deal with them yesterday. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it, thank you.
So, questions of administration on any of the three items? I'll jump in if no one else is keen. I'm not seeing anybody. Okay, I'll go.
Sure.
Well, just really quickly, to confirm what I don't want to misspeak. Where the only multi-unit charges that are changing are for those units that really weren't multi-unit and have always had individual pickup, correct?
That's correct.
So anybody who has a bin pickup, nothing is going to change. They're frozen right now like everybody else.
That's correct.
And in terms of the ongoing discussion with multi-unit, we're still in that process. We actually haven't nailed down what happens next in terms of how we make sure we get source separated.
Correct.
What are the timelines on that?
So, if I may, and thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank Alma. We're actively engaged with them, and we do owe them a letter, and it's been put together, and we'll get back to them for sure. And we obviously, the utility shares the concerns over costs, and I'd like to think that our efforts to keep and bring the rates down to zero and keep them there and find other ways of underwriting our costs are very real in the single and the multis as well. So our plan right now, Mr. Chair, is to bring back the business case for the multi-unit sector. And that's not the 27,000 that we just talked about. That's the balance. This is the 173,000 units. Our intention is to bring back the business case here to Utility Committee in June of next year. And our business case work would not be complete if we weren't listening to Alma and others on some of the concerns that they have. And I think there's a lot of, we'll invite them to tour the facility and understand, and because part of the regulated business, and Mr. Sebrick spoke to it earlier, is that those charges go to support bin eco-stations, bin drop-off, or waste drop-off locations, education, keeping the landfill safe, environmentally safe, and things like that. And the other thing, too, is that we have the highest policy objective in the country at 90%. And typical programs, three-stream programs, will really get at the organics in the blue, but then you need to do something with the residual waste, which is in the black bag. And that distinguishes us from everybody else, in that we have interest in waste to biofuels and some other alternatives. So with that, those programs bring costs and sort of obligations, but we'll lay that out fully, and we're going to be fully engaged. We've done the first round of engagement with condo boards, landlords, industry, and we'll do a second round engagement and bring back the business case in June.
Great, thank you.
I just interrupt
sorry,
for a correction.
Sorry, unfortunately, our system doesn't really work that way, so you're more than welcome to keep on listening, but we have to deal with you separately from administration. Them's the rules.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry
it's
about
Arla,
that.
not Alma, that's all.
Arla, okay, fair enough.
I apologize.
Yeah, great, thanks. So my other question is about the fiscal policy, and I wouldn't mind hearing Mr. Beckett's thoughts on this as well, because it seems to me from where we sit, what we need to understand is the right people are paying for what we're doing, that we take appropriate risk, so that we don't borrow for something that is going to take longer to pay off than it does than it amortizes and runs down and has to be replaced. that we don't end up in trouble and end up overborrowed at a time where we don't have capacity to deal with something that happens. But that ideally the people that are using the facility that you borrow for are also the ones paying for it, which is one of the advantages of debt, because you can actually make sure that you pay for it as you use it, as it amortizes. So given that those are our kind of objectives, the ratio we're using, I understand why it didn't help us with that. But the tool that I wouldn't mind from where I'm sitting is one that can tell us those things. And I'm not entirely convinced that this new tool gives us that information. That really tells us, are we paying for things as we use them and charging the rates to the ratepayer who actually is going to use it? Are we taking too much risk? And I think really because we're not looking at looking at any kind of return on our equity here. That's not the objective. It seems to me that we're still. It's those two other questions that we need a tool for us as regulators to be able to understand. And I'm not totally convinced that this new tool gets us there. It's better than the old tool, I get it.
Right. And I think I'm going to get some help from Santosh here, but I think the indicators are, at least from my perspective as the branch manager of the waste utility, the indicators are intended to be used collectively. And whilst we've obviously struggled on the debt to net assets, we've been focused on the rate. And then then from my perspective, that when we write the rate filing and we do risk assessments at the utility level, then all those programs that drive costs either show up as a capital or show up as an operating and then get reflected in the rates as well. So working together, I guess they work. I don't know, Santosh, if there's anything further to add.
Thanks for asking that question, Mr. Chair. What I can maybe suggest is in the new fiscal policy, we are also introducing a new measure, which is the debt to equity ratio.
That's the one I'm referring to, yeah.
So in combination with the debt to equity ratio, the debt service ratio, and there is the other existing indicator, which is stable consistent rate. I think when you factor the stable consistent rate increases or that indicator in combination with the other two, that's where you'll be able to kind of see whether we are over leveraging or taking more risk than we need to.
Okay. I'll come back around because I understand the debt to equity ratio, but I guess I'm puzzled at why we set it where we set it. I'm not sure I totally understand it, but I'll come around for another round of questions because we have way over time and Councillor Walters is on the board.
Well, that was, in part my question is why did we set it where we set it originally? Maybe remind us again, what our failing has been. And then I would cede my time to Mr. Beckett to comment on that. So, but maybe Michael and Santosh, why did we set it where we set it? And then the new proposal seems more like more similar to the fiscal policy on the tax levy side to me, in terms of a cap, like a debt servicing cap, which worries me a little bit. So maybe just a couple further comments on that.
Councillor, I'm afraid I don't know the origin of the original debt to net assets ratio. Perhaps the chair may know more than I do. I know that what I've heard in the last 3.5 years I've been in this role is that there was some concern initially that the utility was undercapitalized from the start. I think
yes.
When you look today kind of where we are, let's say last 4 or 5 years, and since that time, I think the health of the utility, I think, is in a good place, and the debt service coverage is in, I guess, in part intended to mirror the way it's managed at the tax levy side, corporate side as well.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll go to Mr. Beckett to use my time to wax on productively as he always does and explain to us a bit of that history, which I'm sure he has, and comment on where we are. Jim?
Well, that's quite a while ago, but I think that the original target was set when the concept still existed that the waste utility should provide a return on equity. So there was a desire to keep the equity from falling too low to avoid reducing that the dividend, the return. Subsequently, the policy was amended to reflect the fact that this is really zero cost capital, and the intent was to simply generate enough equity to ensure that capital costs could be met in the subsequent year, plus a measure for contingencies. So I think we ended up where we did with that that old target as a result of some changes that were made along the way, where we made them incrementally, but didn't really make them on the basis of the whole sustainable utility. In my mind, there's no question that the utility is sustainable, and simply not meeting that target didn't really change that fact. So I think that having a better target is definitely worthwhile.
And anything about this proposed target concern you?
No, I think it does the job. I heard Councillor Henderson's concern about risk, but you can always, one of the sure indicators that your risk is going up is that your debt, your ability to pay your debts is going down. So I think for me that works.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had, Ben.
Councillor Banga.
Thank you. Just a little clarification on the presentation you sent us. It's operating budget adjustment highlights. It says proposed 0% rate for 2021, but that's only for a portion of 2021, not the whole year, is it?
Thanks, Councillor. The working assumption in the rate model starts at $47.22, so that rate would carry on through. What triggers the difference is that when we brought the business case back here for the curbside cart rollout, there's always assumed to be a separation between the 120-liter cart and a 240-liter cart, and when we make the change in October for those who select the smaller cart, then they would enjoy the benefit from that, and there's a slight pressure up on the 240 based on the assumptions we have in the rate filing, but blended it remains at zero overall.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was looking at, effective October 1.
Right.
So the 240-liter cart would cost about $1.10 more, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And then my next question is about, about this landfill gas to renewable natural gas. Could you tell me, are these assumptions based on what?
It's a great question, Councillor, and there's a capital profile in the back of the rate filing that explains it in a bit more detail, but essentially it's this. The landfill in its current state generates methane, and methane's not good, and we capture about 45% of it right now through the collection system we have. There's an opportunity to capture more of it and turn that into renewable natural gas. And again, no decisions are made until the business case comes back to committee in February. But the math of it is such that there's a solid business case opportunity that would allow us to spend some money, invest in a system to upgrade the landfill gas, convert it into natural gas, and then sell the renewable natural gas. And that's what's essentially the business case that we'll bring back in February. So no decisions are being made today at the committee. It's there just to note it, and we'll bring that report back in February.
Okay, so the report that's coming back in February, are all these rates and calculations kind of baked into that?
The There are some assumptions, Councillor, there are assumptions on renewable natural gas built into a future rate, not on the 2021 rate. But yes, those are working assumptions that are built into the rate forecast. And again, more detail will be provided when we bring the business case back in February.
So, just as a 240 liter garbage cart, if I keep that on October 1st, I will be paying $48.32 a month.
That's correct. It'd be $1.10 more than you're currently paying right now, yes.
But if I am doing with half that garbage capacity, then I got $3.90 off.
That's correct. It's about, it goes down by that amount. So you have the $43 rate starting in October if you pick a small cart, yes.
Okay, and when these carts are getting delivered or being delivered, how do we keep basically that right people are putting their garbage in their cart or somebody else's cart?
I can't sort of speak to what the neighborhood sort of behaviors would be, but the way the system works, Councillor, is that when the carts arrive at your house, there's an RFID tag in the cart itself that's connected to your address, which in turn supports the billing. So that way the system understands that the Banga household has picked say the 120 liter cart, and therefore that's what you would pay. What happens between neighbors is not something that's built into the rate structure, if you will, but it would be something that would happen in the neighborhoods, I guess.
Okay, well, thanks a lot. My time's up.
Councillor Paquette.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to go back to Arla and questions around multi-unit rates versus what we heard about privatization or private rates. You said in your response to Councillor Henderson that, let me turn on my camera. This may be a bit easier. You said in your response to Councillor Henderson that you're engaged with the group and working on a response. Is there clarification coming for Arla's initial letter that was sent to everyone on November 5th?
That's right.
And will council be included in this response or committee?
The letter will be addressed back to Arla, and anything. What we have to do, Councillor, is we've got 2 phases of engagement plan with the multi-unit sector, and we would include a what we heard report and anything that would come forward for the business case later in June.
Okay, so that they sent their letter, we received on November 5th.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are a month later with folks who are still confused, but if you have answers, why weren't they provided to Arla before this meeting? If you have some form of response that would help inform their presentation, because it sounds like there are 2 sets of ideas of what's going on, and that probably could have been cleared up before this meeting.
Right. Well, the letter we're putting together addresses their question around the cost of organics at $5, and we're providing that detail. It wasn't specific to the conversation we just had around the 27,000 units. So there's been a couple of conversations with the organization, and we want to get that letter back to them, but we'll do that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And I'm just trying to clarify here if we're hearing the same things, that the multi-unit is higher than private because it's paying for drop-off services and the planning for processing and diversion. And the landlords would prefer to just pay for collection and tip fees, and not the rest, not the planning or drop-off services and waste reduction programming.
Councillor, it depends on the numbers that Ms. Monkhouse was referring to. All I can tell you is the programmatic pieces that support the $30, which includes, refuse-derived fuel, it includes all the education drop-off locations and all the liabilities of the utility. So that's part of our cost. And I think what really distinguishes us from many is that because we're a regulated utility, all of those costs are visible and transparent.
Yes.
And part of the context here in work that we need to do with condo boards and property managers and broadly in the multi-unit sector is understanding that context.
Right. And so I guess gets to the crux of communication, because obviously there's a disconnect in how this unfolds and how it compares and what actually is going into the cost and why. And I think that, well, I guess it's too late, but it would have been nice to have that clarification for everyone before this meeting. But hopefully we're going to get that clarification going forward in really, really transparent terms so everyone can see how costs are added up, why they're added up, why specific types of delivery might cost more on the face, but or less, but in the end, it kind of comes out in the wash. Especially as far as a regulated utility and city goals as expressed by Edmontonians. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anybody else for first round? All right, I'm going to go back because this is sort of a learning moment for me. I confess I know just enough now to understand what I don't know. So I'm still trying to wrap. So as I understand it now, we've got the debt service coverage ratio, which is the main thing that we're going to put in to replace the debt to asset ratio. And we're setting that at 22% as a maximum. So understanding, and that 22% we're copying across from our main city policy. But I'm not sure they're the same beasts. And I'm not sure they have the same risks, and I'm not sure they have the same challenges. So I'm just wondering, and I realize I asked this question, I've had the good fortune to be here for a time where money has not cost a lot, right? Where interest rates have been very low. So that difference between money we borrow and pay as you go has not been significant in terms of the long-term and overall cost. And that, I'm guessing, if interest rates were higher, this conversation would be a different one. So how we capture that, how we understand those tolerances, and whether or not this figure gets us there, and whether or not whether or not the 22% number is the right number, understanding that number probably changes if interest rates change.
Right.
That's what I'm still trying to understand where it comes from.
So maybe I can, and I'm going to get some assistance here from Santosh, but as the branch manager, the utility, and the reason why today we're coming in at a zero rate, it's something we've been, as a team, been working on probably for the last 3 years. And I think I rely on the working the indicators collectively, because you can't keep the rates low unless you deal with capital, right? Therefore, what we've learned in the last 2 or 3 years is by rationalizing the capital program like we've done and focusing on the things that need to be done, you remove a lot of projects that were sitting on the rate books that weren't required in the short term. And there are a few projects that we moved to the right. And in so doing, what we've done is we've impacted our ability to keep the rates down positively. The other thing that you should be comforted by is that...
But that doesn't help us. This is what I'm trying, over the long term, if all we're doing is putting those costs off to future.
But I was going to, sorry, Mr. Chair, but I was going to say that one of the things that we talk about asset management, and one of the things we're doing is we've configured a small group to look at the state of our assets. And what you'll see in the rate filing in detail is starting in 23, maybe even earlier if we can, we're going to be able to spend, we'll have sufficient capital margin, if you will, to spend 2% of our plant replacement value on renewal. So our assets will not go unlooked at. That risk is being managed. The landfill risk is being managed. And that's why I'm saying those things working together help us rely on the indicators that we have, and we can keep it, which is, I don't know, Santosh, any further to that?
And I guess what I'm saying, and I get that, and it's not, I'm disagreeing, it's just from where we're sitting for us to regulate properly and understand the measures we're looking at here, we need a measure that actually tells us that, right? Tells us that this is what we're doing and that we're making the best long-term choices in terms of how we use debt.
So I think, Mr. Chair, you got a point there. But what I'll say is as interest rates go up, our debt servicing
Will go up.
Will go up.
Yeah.
The one thing I would like to add in terms of anchoring the 22% and tying it back to the rest of the corporate limits is we didn't want to replicate the new indicator to be similar to what we had in the past, where we really didn't understand how the 50 to 70% target got picked. And therefore, we wanted something that was concrete and that could be aligned with the rest of the corporation. And therefore, we picked the 22%. And again, I'll reiterate that the 22% is quite restrictive. Understanding it's the utility borrowings are different than the rest of the corporation.
Yeah, and our, in the rest of the corporation, for good reason, our risk tolerance is probably different because we don't have a dedicated way of paying the debt.
And we're also as well, just another thing as well, is any renewals over 5 million and any growth projects over 2 million require a business case. And I think we've done a much better job with the details of the business case that then also include revenue and rate demand as well. And the other thing a little bit hidden in this as well is that we've got a few assets that we need to do a better job. The landfill is a classic example of an asset that's generating methane that presents an opportunity, and those are ways that are non-rate revenues but help us with running the business.
Okay, I'm out of time again. Anybody else? Okay, I'm just going to keep on going then, and I have a couple more I just want to ask quickly. Then, just fill in for me then the debt to equity ratio. We're not setting a target on that though, correct? That just is something we're going to measure?
No, we'll continue to report on it so that we have an eye on the amount of leverage we are taking.
Okay, but we're using equity rather than assets because that gives us a more complete picture. Assets only gives us a partial picture.
Yes, and at the same time, we'll be able to compare with the other utilities.
Because remind me, when we did assets, was that depreciated assets or was that book cost asset?
They were non-contributed assets.
Okay.
Yeah.
And equity gives us the same. Does equity give us both? No, we still would only be non-contributed. We don't, or does our equity include contributed assets?
No, we'll be measuring against the debt and the equity that we have, which for the most part for this utility, it is all retained earnings.
Retained earnings. Okay, so it doesn't include assets at all. Well, the assets would be part of the balance to get to equity, would they not?
Well, the assets is on the asset side of the ledger.
Right. Yeah, gotcha.
Equity is on the liability side.
Got it. One other quick question. If understanding that we're having a look back at the organics processing facility, and that those numbers may be changing, what effect? We haven't factored that into the rates at all yet. That may be another good news story on the rates if we decide to take a different path, right?
Mr. Chair, what you have before you now are the assumptions on the OPF that were presented as part of the business case, and should anything change, then we would report on that.
Okay, but we're probably a year out from having an answer to that.
No, our intention, Councillor, is to kind of evaluate the other option between now and the end of March.
Okay.
So we would want, certainly by this time next year, we would
So
want to know.
that might be a good news story on next year's rates.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Great, well, those are all my questions. Councillor Walters is back on.
Just to move the recommendations.
Sure, go for it. Unless there's anybody else? Not seeing anyone?
So I'll move them separately. I'll move the recommendation in 6.1 that Utility Committee recommend to the December 9th through 11, 2020 City Council meeting that the revised Waste Services Utility Fiscal Policy C558B as set out in Attachment 1 of the December 4th, 2020 City Operations Report CR 7840 be approved.
All right, so let's vote on that first. So that's item 6, the recommendation on 6.1?
Correct. And then on 6.2.
Okay, we'll just see if everybody voted.
We need, Mr. Chair, Councillor Hamilton's and Councillor Paquette's vote. Thank you.
Yeah, I got booted out, so I'm a yes. I got to relog in.
And Councillor Hamilton?
I also got booted out, but I'm a yes. Thank
Okay,
you.
well, we welcome you back. And that has passed. All right? Councillor
And I will
Walters?
move that the utility committee recommend to the December 9th through 11th, 2020 city council meeting that number one, the amended 2021 operating budget for the waste services utility with revenues of $215 million and expenditures of $209.7 million, as outlined in attachment 1 of the December 4th, 2020 city operations report CR 8448 be approved. And number two, that the amendments to the 2021 waste services capital budget with a reduction of 0.8 million be approved. 2019 to 2020 waste services capital budget as outlined in attachment 3 of the December 4th, 2020 city operations report CR 8448 be approved. That's a oddly worded recommendation, but I I get the gist of it.
As long as it makes the point. All right.
We should clean that up a little bit before council.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, please, assuming there's no further discussion, please vote.
We have all the votes, Mr. Chair.
And display the vote. And that's off on its way to council. And then, actually, I have a quick question on 6.3, if you don't mind, just before we get there. We're going to get it, this is really just an interim report. You're going to bring us back something with that. You rather than us having discussion now and giving you indication, you would like us to leave it with you?
That's correct.
My only caution would be, and I mentioned this offline, is if we go with the option that uses the basically the regulated revenue leftovers, that really defeats the purpose of having done the loan to begin with. So I was surprised to see that option in there, but I suppose it is a real option, and we could debate that at the time.
We intended to present options at this point, Mr. Chair, and then we'll come forward with a recommendation.
Great, good.
Later.
Mr. Beckett, did you have any thoughts on that? I realized we didn't get, I know you'd weighed in on the other two items.
No, I'm fine.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, Councillor Walters?
I will move that the December 4th city operations report be received for information. CR 8447.
Any further questions or concerns? Hearing none, please vote.
We're good to go.
And display the vote, and that has passed. Great. Thank you very much. That's it for garbage. On to Blatchford. Whenever you're ready.
We have a short presentation if
I
you would
think
like
that
to
would
hear
be
it.
useful.
Okay,
Yep.
it covers all 4 items. All right, so good afternoon, Councillor Henderson, members of Utility Committee. As I mentioned, a short presentation summarizes the 4 reports before you today regarding Blatchford Renewable Energy. With me to answer any questions you may have are Brian Latta, Christian Felsky, Tom Lumsden, in addition to the respective DCMs and other representatives from both finance and law. Pending any concerns you may have today, there are the 4 items that we are recommending be brought forward to Council next week for approval. These include the 2021 supplemental operating and capital budget adjustments, amendments to the utility fiscal policy to incorporate rate-setting principles previously approved by Council, and approval of new customer rates effective January 1, 2021, as outlined in the 2021 annual rate filing. So beginning with the 2021 supplemental operating budget, Energy Center 1 became operational in the fall, with the first utility customer connecting in July 2020. We're now projecting 17 townhouse customers to connect to the utility in 2020, with an additional 57 customers in 21, along with the control tower. The growth of the utility customer base is directly linked to the pace of the land development, and with fewer initial utility customers coming online in 2020 and 21, the operating revenues are now projected to decrease by $307,000 in 2021, with a corresponding decrease in operating costs and other expenditures by $224,000. And these projected reductions are reflected in the proposed 2021 supplemental operating budget adjustment included in report FCS 00126. Then moving to the 2021 supplemental capital budget adjustment, 2 capital profiles have been approved by Council as part of the 19 to 22 capital budget. The first profile was for construction and commissioning of Energy Center Number 1 for $19.4 million in total. And the second profile is $5 million for the preliminary planning and schematic design for the next stage of development of the utility, which is the Sewer Heat Recovery Energy Center. Both of these profiles are being financed through self-supporting tax-guaranteed debt. In report FCS 00173, administration is requesting approval of a third capital profile in the amount of $5 million for Blatchford Renewable Energy to design and construct energy transfer stations. The cost of the stations will be funded and paid for upfront by the home builders prior to commencement of construction by the utility. Moving to the fiscal policy, the Blatchford Utility Fiscal Policy establishes the regulatory process for setting customer rates. Utility Committee is to recommend to Council rates for 2021 based on a review of the 2021 annual rate filing, which is before you today. The fiscal policy also lays out key regulatory principles for establishing rates. These include customer rates are to be based on the full cost of providing service, and utility customers are to pay at most a comparable fee to elsewhere in the City of Edmonton through their energy, utility bills, and annual maintenance costs. At the last Utility Committee meeting, administration presented proposed rate-setting principles that were subsequently approved by Council to be included in the fiscal policy. These principles clarify that a levelized approach may be used to establish rates, and that the assessment of Blatchford utility rates against market will be on a longer-term basis to ensure they remain competitive. Report FCS 00138 provides the updated fiscal policy that has been amended to incorporate these rate-setting principles. And as we'll discuss a bit more in the next couple of slides, these rate-setting principles have also been applied to the 2021 rate filing. So if we move now to customer rates for 2019, the methodology used to set the proposed rates for 2021 build upon the approach initially established for 19 and 20. For 2019, administration engaged Grant Thornton to assist with designing the initial customer rates. A pegged approach was recommended that would result in Blatchford utility customers paying a comparable fee for their energy bills and maintenance costs to elsewhere in the city of Edmonton. Given the small number of utility customers in 2019, this PEG approach resulted in customer rates that are lower than what is required for the Blatchford utility to recover its revenue requirement or full cost of providing service. Therefore, a regulatory deferral account was established in 2019 to begin accumulating the differences between revenue collected under the PEGD approach and the revenue requirement based on cost of service. Beginning in 2020, having now set rates for 19, Utility Committee and Council approved the use of the levelized approach to increase rates in 2020. And as part of the 2021 annual rate filing, administration is recommending that the levelized approach continue to be used, whereby 2020 approved rates would be escalated by 2.7% effective January 1, 2021. And just to recap what the levelized approach is and the justification for using it, the levelized approach was the rate-setting methodology used in the business case presented to Council in March 2016 for the development of the Blatchford utility. And under the levelized approach, customer rates in the business case were increased by 2.7% on average each year over the initial 50 years to ensure stable and consistent rate increases that are relatively simple to understand and implement. Rates under-recover costs in the early years of the utility's operations when the customer base is small, but gradually recover past costs in the later years when the customer base is fully established. And finally, the 2021 rate filing also includes a comparison of Blatchford renewable energy fees against elsewhere in the city of Edmonton to ensure they remain competitive under the levelized approach. Based on the 5-year average utility bills and maintenance costs from 2019 to 23, the annual utility costs for Blatchford renewable energy customers are projected to be slightly lower than the cost for comparable residents elsewhere in the city of Edmonton. Blatchford utility townhouse customers will pay on average $1,780 per year versus $1,853 per year for a typical customer elsewhere in Edmonton. And Blatchford utility apartment customers will pay on average $1,475 per year versus $1,498 for a typical customer elsewhere in Edmonton. And that concludes our presentation. And with that, we're available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
I'm not seeing the list yet.
I'm on there.
Okay, off you go.
Thanks, folks. So firstly, how many customers did we originally anticipate in 2020 and in 2021?
So
That's for 6.4.
correct. Barry McNabb here, Councillor Walters. So originally, we thought we'd have 262 in 2019 with an apartment having been built, 0 in 20 and 131 in 2021. So that's close to 400 customers we originally thought we'd have by the end of 2021. And based on our latest projections, 17 and 20 and 58 and 21, so we're looking at 75 by the end of 2021.
And what would you attribute to not meeting that target?
So the pace of development of the utility, as we've discussed a few times, is directly linked to the pace of development of the land itself. So I'd probably ask Tom Lumsden to jump in on that one.
Good question for Tom. Thanks, Barry.
Yeah, Councillor Walters, it's market driven, obviously, as Barry indicated. We haven't had the sales that we thought we might have when we started in looking at 2018, kind of projecting 2019 through 22.
And is that drop in sales comparable to the rest of the market?
I would suggest yes, it is. We're going to achieve the targets we thought we were going to have, just we're delayed by a couple of years.
Okay, and then when we look at, and I know it's not necessarily, I know we're trying to do the levelized approach in terms of the utility costs, but I wonder if it's that slow in like a suburban context or other residential contexts, like in the downtown market generally. Is that slower than we anticipated, right?
Yeah, the uptake is less than we thought in 2018 when we did the projections for these years. But we finally have a show home open on site, so we're anticipating things to start to ramp up. Just like I said, a couple of years delayed what it was before.
Okay, thanks for that. Maybe just a question on the energy transfer stations. If you can just shine a little more light on what those are exactly, just remind me.
So, Councillor Walters, the energy transfer station replace the traditional mechanical room in a condo building. So they're called energy transfer station because they're basically at the converting or transferring the energy from the district energy pipe network in the street to the property line into the buildings, into the individual units. So that's...
Okay. I was wondering if I should take that completely literally, so I guess I should. The question of the statement around the changes that the rates be levelized over the longer term would then suggest that they're not being levelized immediately, although we're using that for 2021. So maybe just explain that to me a little bit more, what you mean by over the longer term. How precisely is that going to work?
I'd say when we refer to levelized over the longer term, initially we're following the business case for the project, and that was over a 50-year period. And so when we're setting the rates on a 2.7% increase in the first couple of years, it's with a view going out 50 years. Now, obviously, we're going to be adjusting rates as the utility continues to grow, so I highly doubt we'll be at 2.7% over the 50 years, but as we begin to build this utility, that's the way we're going.
Okay, that's fine. I got it. Thanks, Ben.
Councillor Banga.
Thank you. So I was just looking at this utility customer rates. Could somebody explain to me what does the pegged approach means?
So the pegged approach was a term we used in the very first year that we set rates. So that was in 2019. So in the first year, we needed to come up with a reasonable approach for setting rates. And the general concept or principle for Blatchford is customers in Blatchford should not be paying more for their energy than outside of Blatchford. So to set those initial rates, we made sure that the total energy bill in the end for the Blatchford customer would be the same as somebody outside of the Blatchford development. So we pegged their total bill or rates to be equivalent to what somebody else would pay.
Okay, but now it's the other way around, isn't it?
Right, so just for year one, just to get the rates where they were comparable to elsewhere in the city, and also they were very comparable to the original business plan. Now that you've got the initial rates, instead of pegging them, or again, each year thereafter, basing them what is paid elsewhere, we're increasing them smoothly, 2.7% initially. And the positive of that is that elsewhere in the city, the commodity price of gas or electricity can go up or down a fair bit in a given year. So there would be a lot more fluctuation if we pegged the rates. And the other reason we didn't peg them is ultimately the utility needs to be financially sustainable. So that's why increasing it 2.7% initially gives us a plan or approach to make sure this is financially sustainable in the long run.
Okay, so just the way the rates are for, I guess, next year, would it be fair to say that customers in the city of Edmonton, on the whole, are they paying for little bit of Blatchford utilities?
So at this point, no. Blatchford Utility, the business case is for it to be financially sustainable on its own. There is that initial $93 million non-refundable contributions that we've discussed a few times over the last few years. That is a key element. But at this point, that $93 million has not been identified. So initially, we are building the capital with what we call self-supporting tax guaranteed debt. And self-supporting means that ultimately the utility, through future customer rates and other sources of revenue, will pay back that debt. But again, that is dependent on getting the $93 million of cash infusions.
So the future customers who we think are going to pay for it, would they be paying for their ancestors, like who owned the house before them?
Yes, to a small degree. It's not a lot. It's this intergenerational inequity thing that in the early years, customers, there's too few of them. They just simply can't afford to pay for the initial infrastructure. So the rates are not what they need to be to pay for the initial infrastructure, but it's not reasonable to ask them to do so. So in the early years, the rates are lower than what they'd need to be financially sustainable, which means in the later years, as more and more customers come on, yes, the rates would have to be a wisp higher than what they would otherwise be in order to catch up for those early years.
So just in the next few years, the rates would be, Blatchford rates would be increasing, I guess, on a faster pace than the rest of the city. We just have them all leveled.
No, not necessarily. And in fact, the current answer would be no. Again, just based on the business case, and if we assume that for 50 years this development, the utility will build out exactly like the business case, with 16,000 customers coming on just exactly like we project, there would be a 2.7% increase per year in their rates. And again, I would think that would be a little bit lower than what the average increase in rates would be for gas and electricity bills elsewhere in the city of Edmonton.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Councillor Cartmel.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. So I'll just pick up there. My question really is, and I'm looking at the chart on page 5 of the report on 6.4. Why wouldn't we increase the rates at more than 2.7% to more closely match what the average person in the city is seeing? Do you know, am I explaining myself correctly?
Yes, yep, you are. And certainly the committee has raised this question before, when to go to more of a pegged approach versus a levelized approach. And I guess it's just in the initial years of operation, as a utility is just beginning to get established. There's so few customers, and you do want to have a bit of rate certainty and rate stability for new homeowners as they begin to come in. So that's probably the number one reason, is the 2.7% sends a pretty clear picture to future homeowners what they're expecting their utility bills to be. Yeah, I think I'd leave it at that for now.
So is the intent just to sort of hold at 2.7% for the next few years, as opposed to and I'm just picking numbers out of the air, but to say make it 3% this year to match what we're seeing elsewhere, and perhaps 2.4% next year, that kind of a thing. Is there some magic to just sort of maintaining that 2.7?
There is a little bit of magic, I guess. Again, it goes back to giving a clear signal to ratepayers what's they're in store for the first few years. And you could definitely increase it a bit or decrease it a bit. It's just that with so few customers right now, it really would make next to no impact on the operating income of the utility. So I think, and that's probably where I was going, in the initial years, just to get this utility grounded and off the ground and get the rates established and what have you, I think it's good to have a nice methodical approach, but we have to be nimble. So depending on how quickly or slowly it develops or other things that are out there, you would start looking at how you're setting rates, and maybe you would adjust them one way or another as you're suggesting we may.
So we're not necessarily, and I'm again just picking numbers out of the air. If ratepayers across the city saw a 7% increase in a year, we're not against following that and moving off the 2.7% number. We're just trying to be a little bit more predictable than that. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes and no. Again, I guess there's a couple things. Is number one, it's a different technology, and once it's financially sustainable, it's heat out of the ground. So that's one reason why the rate should be more stable. Whereas the commodity price for gas and electricity, the market goes up and down, so you'd expect more fluctuation. So you've got that one thing, and that's one selling point of a geothermal system. But the other side, the committee and administration needs to weigh, obviously, is it does need to be financially sustainable in the long run, and we do need the 93 million of cash infusions. And so you do have to revisit the question you're asking.
Well, I guess I'm going is that, this utility is not self-sustaining. And so while we don't want to overemphasize that point and really give rate shock to the few people that are there, we can't ignore that fact either. There's a $93 million hole in the sustainability of this utility still, right?
That's correct. The 93 million infusion hasn't been identified yet.
Okay, I also had a question about the energy transfer stations. I understand the analogy to, this replaces the mechanical room in the building. Are we paying for the mechanical room or the equipment in that mechanical room, or I'm confused as to why we would be doing that?
No, we're not. The equipment in the energy transfer station is contributed by the builders. So but in this particular case, the utility will design and build the energy transfer station equipment, but will recoup the costs from the builders.
When?
So, Cardinal, it's Brian Latta here. So, we need to have the budget defined, but the funding source is external or developer financing. So, we just need to have the capital profile in order for the work to commence, but all funds would be recouped by the builder developer.
I'm out of.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe I can just follow up on that. So this is really just, you need a profile because ultimately, although they're going to buy them, we're going to own them.
That's correct.
So it's because it becomes our asset, but it's an asset that's bought by the builder. That's why the profile's in front of us. And we want that because it gives us some control over consistency and maintenance. And so the maintenance will become our problem though, correct? But that's built into the rates.
That is correct. So the maintenance, as you pointed out, will be recovered from the rates, the future rates. So it gives us the exact advantages you mentioned as well in terms of like choosing equipment and providing good, stable, and cost-efficient operation.
Yeah. And we've got and going that way is because we've got that information from other similar systems that's the best way to provide reliability.
Yes, and obviously in developing this, we talked to many other utility providers on the private and the municipal side, and that was one of the suggestions made at this time.
But there's going to be no dollar ask of either the city or the utility. This really is just because somebody else is, this is a contributed asset is what it is.
That is correct.
Yeah, okay. We must have put one or two of these in. How were we able to do that, I ask a little bit cautiously.
So we are just starting the negotiation for the first energy transfer
Okay.
stations. The buildings so far connected are so-called fee simple townhomes, where each building has an individual connection.
Okay, so this is only for the larger ones where we would put a larger unit. The individual townhomes will have their own. They buy whatever they want and they disconnect.
That's correct.
Okay.
So we're currently in negotiation and in discussions with a few builders of such buildings.
Okay. And just on the 2.7%, the reality is, part of the deal here is, we will continue to collect 2.7%. The model is, we will collect 2.7% above and beyond what it's actually costing us to to provide the service once we get up and running, until such time as this all levels out, correct? So the 2.7% will continue once, we're going to overcharge people in the future 2.7% until we pay off what we're short right now.
That's correct.
Right, so the leveling is over a long period of time, and then at some point, once this original piece is covered and that debt is taken care of, then you would set your rates in a different way, presumably. It would be based on what the actual cost of operation is.
That's correct.
How I can't remember how far down the road we think that is in our modeling.
Well, again, the 2.7%, and I'm answering your questions a little carefully, Councillor Henderson. 2.7% was over a 50-year
50,
horizon.
so it's 50 years?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right. So in year 50, then at that point, the assumption is, and obviously this is a guesswork at this point, we won't know for sure, but give or take a few years, hopefully if all goes well, at that point you would be setting your rates completely based on what you're actually spending in a year.
Right,
Yeah.
and quite honestly, if not sooner, depending
Yeah,
on how
if all
things,
goes well.
yeah.
And that raises one other question that I had about our policy. It says the utility will not utilize debt to finance current operating expenditures, and I ask this a bit nervously because it sort of feels like that's what we're doing right now. And are we getting enough back in rates to pay for the actual operation, and the differentiation is, well, we can't be right now. We don't have enough customers to pay for the operation. We must be borrowing. And I asked the question because if we mean it, we probably shouldn't have it in the policy.
No, that's fair. I think we're okay. We're not using long-term debt to pay for our operating costs. We've got a $9.5 million working capital short-term debt from the city for the first 4 years to cover our operating costs. And that I don't have the policy in front of me.
Yeah, do we define debt as just long-term?
Yeah,
I'm just wondering if that's what we mean. We should maybe say long-term debt instead of just debt.
Yeah, it is long-term debt, and I'm just...
I'm looking in the definitions.
Okay, just let me get...
I don't see debt defined. Because I only ask because it is our model. There's no way to do this without doing it. But we probably shouldn't be writing a policy that we can't adhere to.
So on page 2 of the fiscal policy, there's this number 1's rate sufficient to meet expenditures and cash flows. And 1C says where the utility's cash position is insufficient to meet cash flow requirements, the utility will borrow from the city of Edmonton on a short-term basis.
Okay.
And that's what we're doing with the $9.5 million.
So it's only that, yeah, and okay, I mean, as long as we're comfortable, it struck me that number 1 of 2, utility will not utilize debt to finance current operating expenditures, is contradictory to that.
And that's fair. We can change the definition to long-term debt.
Yeah.
It is long-term debt.
If that's what we mean, I think let's put it in there. I think it's better to catch it than not. So, so I'm not sure the best way to handle that. I'm out of time. Can I just do a quick check-in with Mr. Beckett? if there's any thoughts on any of this?
Well, I would suggest that utility committee keep their eye on the deferral account balance, and to use a phrase that has become popular lately, watch to make sure that there's a bend in the curve at some point.
Fair enough. Well, and we probably need to model that out each year.
Well, I think that's a fair comment, and actually we, going forward, should include in our report where that that deferral account is at and where we're projecting it to be. I think that is almost a metric in itself. Right now, it's about $1 million a year. We're not, because our revenues are down, but our expenses are actually down a wisp more in the first couple of years. So that deferral account is pretty much right on target where we expect it to be.
Okay.
Next year and the year after, it's going to start taking a bit more of a hit because revenue's down.
So we probably need to track that. I think, thanks, Mr. Beckett. I think that's because that's our biggest risk right now, is that getting out of hand, I suspect. Anything else, or? Great, good. Okay, then is it appropriate to make that one amendment to the fiscal policy motion when we get to it? Well, is it okay to do that on the fly, or would you prefer to take it back?
We can make that one amendment here in the room,
Okay,
and then
right.
you could pass it as revised.
Okay. Well, then maybe very quickly on, is that the first item? No, we would start with 6.4. So if someone wants to move the recommendation on 6.4, unless there are any other questions?
I'll move that.
Okay, so that's, there it is. So it's a recommendation to council of the adjustments to the operating budget for Blatchford. So any further questions? Everybody, I think, can read it on the things. So if we'd like to vote then. We're all good. Display the vote. And that has passed. Then I will move an amendment on, and I'll move 6.5, the new fiscal policy, with amended to say that the utility will not, on number 2A, the utility will not utilize long-term debt to finance current operating expenditures. And apart from that, I will move it as originally presented.
We don't need seconders for amendments, right?
No, it was not already amendment. I'm moving it as I'm moving it as amended. So we
Right.
don't even need to pass it as amendment. So unless somebody has a concern with that, then in which the case they could amend it back. Then any other questions about this or concerns? Then please vote. All good, and we'll see how we voted. And that too has passed. Somebody like to move 6.6? So this is the bylaw which has the rates in it.
I'll move that.
Okay. Any further questions? So this is basically the 2.7% increase. Then please vote. And we're all good. Display the vote. And that is passed. And then finally, we have the capital budget adjustment, which is a recommendation to council, I think, isn't it? Yeah. To add the capital profile. So, Councillor Hamilton, did you move that?
I did.
Oh. Okay. Councillor McKean, sorry. Any questions, further concerns? Please vote. And display the vote. Great, and that's passed. Okay, that's it for Blatchford. On to APCOR. and the beginning of the real fun and games. All set? And let the PBRs begin.
Good afternoon, councillors. I'm Daryl Manning, Director of Regulatory for Epcor Water Services, and I'm here in person with Carmen Piercy, who's our Senior Manager of Regulatory. And I believe both Sean Bradford and Amanda Rosachuk are on the line in case there's questions. So this afternoon we're responding.
I'm just guessing, because I'm having a little bit of trouble. Can you just move the mic a bit closer? Because if I'm having trouble, then I'm guessing the folks online are having more. Great, thanks.
No problem. So this afternoon we're responding to two motions, both of which were made at the end of the last PBR. One is to look at the return on equity and efficiency factor, and then the second one is just mechanisms to deal with declining consumptions. We do have a presentation for both items, but we can also move directly to questions.
I think given that this is going to be the basis of the PBR, I think it would be really useful, especially since we have new members to the committee, to get the presentation. I think, more we can reiterate the stuff, probably the better for everybody's sake.
Okay.
So.
That's great. So I will turn it over to Carmen, who will go through the return on equity presentation.
Good afternoon, councillors. So as Daryl said, this presentation and report is in response to two utility committee motions from EPCOR's last PBR hearing. This presentation will help establish some of the key parameters for the PBR applications that become effective in 2022. So just going back to the last hearing, the city's consultant Grant Thornton concluded in their review of EPCOR's cost of capital that EPCOR's business risks for water and wastewater were greater than the average Alberta electric and gas utility, and that it was reasonable to add a risk premium to the Alberta Utility Commission generic cost of capital. We believe this recognizes that EPCOR's PBR is unique and carries some additional risks due to locking forecasts in for a 5-year period, and it's also in a different business. At the close of the hearing, Utility Committee suggested that EPCOR work with City administration to address two directions. First, that support be provided for the rate of return and efficiency factor using a baseline determined by the Alberta Utility Commission, and that administration work with EPCOR to establish appropriate method for the efficiency factor prior to the next PBR application. So just a bit of history on the work done to date on the return on equity. Back in mid-2019, EPCOR and City administration began some discussions on a method to identify and quantify the risk factors that make up the risk premium over the Alberta Utility Commission's generic return.
I'm just going to stop you just for a sec, because I'm looking at my screen and I'm realizing we don't quite have the presentation up yet, and I think it's worth getting it up, so why don't we just take a second till we get that sorted?
Okay.
Because I know we can see it here, but all those playing along at home.
I can see it.
You got it on your screen?
Correct. I do, at least.
Okay, well then I'm fussing unnecessarily. Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. So we went and issued a formal request for information and circulated that to the consulting community. In January of this year, we only ended up with 2 firms responded to our request for information. Neither adequately defined a method to quantify the risk factors. They indicated there was no real basis to adequately quantify the risk factors and that it was not an established industry practice. So we concluded from that attempting to quantify the risk factors as an approach to determining the risk premium was not a preferred course. And so we then began to explore more traditional cost of capital approaches. And when I say a traditional cost of capital approaches, that would involve hiring a cost of capital expert and having them do some financial modeling and analysis using things like the capital asset pricing model, discounted cash flow model, and other models to come up with a fair return that's equal to returns on investments of comparable risk. So we did consult with a cost of capital expert to consider the traditional method, and the first question was whether the impact of the global pandemic should be reflected in the return on equity. And the conclusion was that with the market data, various financial ratios, interest rates having been extremely volatile during 2020, it was determined that it was very problematic to apply traditional methods at this time. And so to avoid reliance on capital cost estimates inflated by the temporary pandemic conditions, we're proposing to assume a return to normal or near normal conditions by 2022, which is the first year of the PBR. So we're proposing to use 2019 pre-pandemic data and or looking at 2022 which we call post-pandemic forecasts to assess the cost of capital for the 2022 to 26 PBR periods. And so we're also proposing that the most reasonable approach at this time, given these various challenges, is a straightforward update of the Grant Thornton 2016 return on equity analysis, the last PBR hearing. So just to refresh on that Grant Thornton 2016 analysis, first Grant Thornton agreed to continue the 60% and 40% capital structure. They also agreed EPCOR's business risk was greater than the average Alberta electric and gas utility, and therefore they applied an equity risk premium of 1.875% above the AUC's generic cost of capital, as is shown in the center column, the bottom row of the table. If you added the 8.3% generic cost of capital that was in place at that time, plus this 1.875% risk premium, that results in the 10.175 approved return on equity that is in place currently for EPCOR's water and wastewater PBR. So taking that 2016 analysis, we then decided to approach an update to that based on 4 components. Looking at the most recent Alberta Utility Commission generic cost of capital of 8.5%, applying the Grant Thornton risk premium of 1.875, and updating for the underlying interest rates by adjusting for changes in the long-term Government of Canada bond yields, and then recognizing that when when interest rates increase by a percentage, equity increases usually increase or decrease by less than 1%. So that's what we're calling a compression and expansion factor. And I'll speak to each of these components briefly. So the generic cost of capital, the Alberta Utility Commission had set an 8.5% generic cost of capital for 2018. It was applied then to 2019 and 2020, and in a very recent decision, the AUC decided to extend that to into 2021 on a final basis. So that's the latest generic return. In terms of the risk premium, as I said, we're using the 1.875 from the Grant Thornton report, but the question was how does this apply to drainage? So when we looked at drainage, we recognize it's under the same PBR regulatory framework. However, the business has some higher business risks compared to water due to a few things, including a longer capital recovery period or longer lived assets, and far greater proportion of contributed assets than compared to water. So for drainage, it's about 70% contributed assets, whereas water is around 30%. It also has a slightly higher operating leverage. And therefore, we concluded that the risk premium for drainage should be no less than 1.875%. So then to update for interest rates, we looked at the change in the 30-year or long Canada bond yields. And for the 8.5% generic cost of capital that was used, or that was determined in 2018, at the time the long Canada bond yield was 2.3% as an underlying interest rate. If we look at 2019 or pre-pandemic long Canada bond yields, it's around 1.8%. And then we looked at forecasts from Consensus Economics, and their forecast was also 1.8%, which is an average of a number of banks and other financial institutions. So using either the 2019 or 2022 long Canada bond yields results in about a 0.5% reduction in interest rates, which we've incorporated. So then the compression and expansion factor, as I mentioned, it recognizes that historically regulators have assumed that if bond yields increase or decrease by 1%, then the equity rates of return tend to increase or decrease by 0.75. So there's a bit of an adjustment there. So the analysis is summarized on this table. As you can see that on the third row, there's a 0.5% change due to the bond yield from the 2018 generic cost of capital decision, multiplied by the compression expansion factor gives a 0.38% reduction in the underlying interest rates. And then if you add, start with the generic cost of capital for 2019 or the current one for 2021, plus the risk premium, less the adjustment for interest, we have a proposed equity rate of return for EPCOR's PBR of 10%. And that is the target we're proposing for water, wastewater, and drainage. So what does this mean for the upcoming 2022 PBR applications? We're proposing that 10% is the target for water, wastewater. However, for drainage, we're proposing to moderate and a phase into this target. And that reflects EPCOR's efforts to improve service reliability, implementing the flood mitigation and odor mitigation strategies while not exposing customers to overly aggressive rate increases. So to moderate the increases, we're proposing a ramp up of the return on equity for drainage over a 5-year period on the base operations. Today, the current return on equity for drainage is around 5%. And so if you can see on this table here, phasing that in over a 5-year period would provide about an 8% average drainage return on equity on the base, 8.25% consolidated for drainage, and then 9.1% consolidated for EWSI in total over the 5-year period. We're proposing to maintain the Stormwater Integrated Resource Plan and the Corrosion and Odor Mitigation Strategy capital at 10%, given that those are new initiatives developed following the transfer of drainage to EPCOR. So moving on to the second utility committee direction on the efficiency factor. which is another key component of the PBR. We're proposing that, as background, the efficiency factor is effectively, oops, am I on the right?
Just use your mouse.
Yeah, it's kind of getting off center there. There we go. So the efficiency factor, just for background, it's the minimum amount that the utility must improve the efficiency to maintain its allowed return on equity. It usually declines over successive PBR terms to recognize the increasing difficulty in finding operational efficiencies. And EPCOR did have a declining efficiency factor on the water PBR until the 2007 to 11 PBR term. And since then, it's been set at 0.25%. On the last PBR application, in terms of our efficiency factor evidence, Dr. Kaufman was engaged. He's a recognized expert on advising utilities on these matters, and he proposed a negative 0.5% efficiency factor using industry methods. At the time, we proposed to maintain a 0.25 efficiency factor, even while meeting higher regulatory safety and environmental performance standards. So for this PBR, we are not planning to engage a consultant to recommend an efficiency factor. Our assumptions are that the underlying industry parameters have not changed, and that a negative efficiency factor would be likely recommended by a consultant based on the same methodologies. We're proposing not to lower, but to maintain the positive 0.25% efficiency factor for the PBR, to continue EPCOR's commitment to find operating cost savings across all businesses, water, wastewater treatment, and drainage, and to align with the City of Edmonton goals. And just to address a question that we had was whether the 0.25% efficiency factor is appropriate for drainage, given that it's its first PBR, effective PBR period. I guess considering that, there have been aggressive efficiency targets that were already applied to drainage operations at the time of the 2017 transfer as one of the EPCOR's commitments. And so we had committed already to executing the city's drainage capital program at 10% lower costs, and also reducing the drainage operating costs by 5% below 2017 levels by 2022. And drainage does expect to meet these commitments by 2022. And also we consider that drainage return on equity in the PBR application will be well below a fair level of return given its risks as we phase into the target return on equity. The drainage business is also, for reasons I mentioned earlier, we determined to be higher risk compared to water, which increases EPCOR's overall risk profile. And so for all those reasons, we felt that increasing the efficiency factor above 0.25% for drainage in combination with the ramping up of the return on equity was seen as moving the risk-return profile beyond an acceptable level. So that's the end of my presentation. Just open for questions.
Did we want questions on the ROE?
I think it would be worth keeping them separate, because I think they really are totally different pieces of the puzzle, unless somebody else feels otherwise. I need to check in with the committee too. At this point, we're at 3:30. So really we have this item and the other report. There really are two reports, although they're masquerading as one here. So would we like to take our break?
I'm happy to keep going, but I'll defer to others.
I'm happy to keep going.
Let's keep going.
Keep going? Okay. All right, good. Then let's do questions. Councillor Walters is suggesting that we maybe go to Mr. Beckett for his thoughts before we ask questions on this. So, Jim, we'll throw you into the lion's den.
Thank you. I think that Utility Committee should ask EPCOR. I recommend that Utility Committee ask EPCOR why they're using the Grant Thornton 2016 risk premium when the consultants they've subsequently talked to now agree there's no reasonable methodology to calculate such a risk premium?
I had intended to ask exactly that question, so thank you. We'll go there. Yeah. Okay, thanks, Jim. Anything else or did you want to let us have a go at it and then come back after?
Come back later.
Okay, great, thanks. Councillor Walters.
Well, let me start with that question that you heard Mr. Beckett ask. It feels a little bit like a Groundhog Day scenario as we head back to, if I remember back to the last PBR. So just maybe your response to Mr. Beckett's question.
Well, I think the short answer is Carmen mentioned that using the traditional methods, whether that's CAPM or anything like that, didn't yield results that really would be acceptable because of the turmoil in the market. So ultimately, we felt going back to what was an acceptable position 5 years ago on the assumption that would be acceptable going forward.
So maybe what I'm still not clear about in terms of the risk premium, and maybe you itemized it there, but I wasn't sure that was an itemized sort of composition of what risk actually is. So maybe explain for me in a little more detail what the risk is that we're trying to hedge against here.
Well, it's a whole range of items, and we did not quantify them or put them down in our presentation, but we could certainly do that as part of the PBR application.
I think that would be good, Mr. Manning, but can you just give us a bit of a flavor of it now?
I certainly can. So the fact that, we're forecasting capital 5 years out is a large one in our PBR. The fact that we really have no mechanism to guard against changes in consumption at this point in time, so EPCOR is bearing all that risk. And the fact that we're under a 5-year PBR means that we're forecasting many of the variables for 5 years, which inherently has risk in it. So those would be the three I would come up with off the top. Do you have?
Yeah, just to add to that, I mean, we lock in our interest rates and the return on equity itself for the 5-year period. It's not changing or over time. We have no deferral account mechanisms.
So if we did 2-year or 3-year PBRs, the premium would disappear or decrease?
It would probably decrease, but we haven't done that work to figure out how much. But conversely to that, the cost of doing applications that frequently would go up. But to give you the one benchmark that's kind of the low point, the RWCG, which represents 28% of the volume of our water, is at the AUC generic. And it is a total flow-through system, which essentially means we establish an interim rate at the beginning of the year. We provide water to them, and at the end of the year, we run our cost of service models, and we either send them a bill or provide a refund, depending on where the actual costs come out. And again, they're at 8.5%, which we're certainly riskier than that for all the factors that we've just mentioned.
But essentially you're saying because of the capital forecasting, potential changes in consumption and locking in interest rates, it's the 5-year term that really underpins the need for the premium.
That and the consumption. We take all the consumption risk.
And the consumption risk is exacerbated by the fact that the large majority of our revenues are collected based on variable rates. Very small portion is fixed.
So back to Mr. Beckett, if hearing that answer, noting that it's largely to do with those two things, then the term as it relates to a number of factors and then the consumption risk, what's your advice to us from there? What should we be thinking about or challenging?
Well, I think you should challenge the Grant Thornton 2016 risk premium. Going back to that, because it was acceptable in 2016, when you've subsequently determined that it's not a viable methodology, seems like a flawed logic. If Grant Thornton was prepared to defend that 2016 risk premium approach, they would have been one of the successful consultants in EPCOR's RFI, and apparently they weren't. So I think that that really needs to be, there needs to be more justification brought to that.
So even noting that, considering though that there is some variability and certainly in forecasting capital 5 years out, locking in interest rates for 5 years, because you hear that and that seems reasonable on the surface to me. Simply because there's no methodology that works, we shouldn't be attaching a premium to the rates, is what you're saying.
Well, I'm not suggesting that there shouldn't be a premium, but the things that you just mentioned are risks that any utility going into a PBR faces, and they get the AUC generic rate of return to compensate them for those risks. EPCOR is suggesting that they incur additional risks, and they can the onus is on them to justify whether or not those risks are additional.
But then there's no methodology apparent to justify it, so then we're at a loss to determine whether those risks are real or not. I guess is the pickle we're in, and I ran way into the red. Sorry, Ben.
Yeah, well, that's where I was going to go as well, because I think we're here right now, and I'm not sure we're any further forward, because with some reluctance, we accepted from Grant Thornton X number of years ago now a figure for the difference between what AUC considered was acceptable risk, and on the argument that EPCOR was different, and we weren't confident that we had a way of establishing that. And it feels to me like we're still in the same boat. Some way to articulate, even if it's not third party, some way for EPCOR to make the case to us, because AUC, if I understand it correctly, already looks at what they would consider the risks would be for utility. That's what that number is already based on. So EPCOR really needs to show us why they're different from all the other utilities. And I'm not sure we've ever really, somewhat of a novice in this, but that's what I've never been able to wrap my mind around and have confidence that what that figure was based in. And we're still, it sounds like we're still struggling to get there, and I think that's the point that Mr. Beckett's making as well. So, even the stuff you're articulating now, but we had a debate about what we thought was going to happen with interest rates 5 years ago, 4 years ago. They've remained remarkably stable. There's every indication that they're probably going to remain remarkably stable in the future. Certainly, that's what money markets are banking and betting on. So, some of these premises, I'm still struggling a little bit around, and I think we need to have some argument in terms that we can understand them, I think, about why it would be different from the work that AUC's already done.
And we can certainly do that, but just to add a little bit of clarity, Grant Thornton did respond to the RFI, so they were one of the people that did respond. And the specifics of the RFI was not to quantify the overall amount, the 1.875. It was to break that down and look at the individual components, because that was our understanding of what utility committee wanted. And so we took the assumption that, the 1.875 was probably a reasonable number, but trying to quantify, as I said, the individual components, like how much is consumption and how much is capital and how much is, that's where they really ran into a problem.
And we're going to be having a conversation the next item, which hopefully will try and deal with some of the consumption risk questions. So that's going to theoretically change. So arguably, these numbers would, if that's one of the risks, that would change here as well. So, the trouble is it puts, we're not particularly experts. The one resource that we have that gives us that expertise is the AUC number. So what we really need to understand is what makes EPCOR different from that AUC number for us to set this and not just pull it as a number out of the air, which is what it feels like a little bit right now.
Okay.
So I don't know how to get there, but that's, and I recognize this puts you guys in a difficult situation because we're not experts. And AUC has experts, and what we lack is experts, with the exception of Mr. Beckett and some of the people that work within our administration. But that's for us to be able to adjudicate, we're going to have to be able to satisfy ourselves of that. And I'm not quite sure how to get there, and I don't know, Mr. Beckett, if you have any other thoughts on that.
Well, the onus is on EPCOR to justify their application when they present it. So it's not for you to do the work, Councillor Henderson. It's for EPCOR to do the work, and I'm sure they'll do it. There's no question that they're capable of doing it, but it has to be presented in a way that utility committee and council can understand, rather than starting from a number that we now recognize was sort of plucked out of thin air.
I think we're prepared to accept that the AUC has done its homework. So I don't think we need to question that. What we need to understand is what makes EPCOR different.
Right.
And that's what, we don't need to go back and do the AUC work all over again. Well, recognizing that we're in a strange year this year, and AUC is also saying we can't set this rate given the current circumstances. So I think it's a fair assumption that using the 2019 numbers, especially if you're looking at the Canada bond piece and varying it based on that, I think that's legitimate, because that is a number that we have as a constant that we'll be able to understand fairly quickly and easily. So I accept all of that. Given those variables, but the one other variable that we're still struggling with was the premise that we struggled with 5 years ago, is what makes EPCOR special.
Right.
Yeah, and I think we can certainly articulate that in our PBR application by comparing the two different PBR structures and different nature of the risks. The challenge is always quantifying those pieces.
Understood,
so,
but you can at least make your case of quantifying them, and that gives us a starting place to go that makes sense, and to test those.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and the whole reason we're bringing this forward as an individual item as opposed to part of the PBR is to get that guidance so we can provide exactly what you do need to make the decision.
This is what we spent most of our time talking about a number of years ago, but it is consequential. And I would argue I have no idea what time I'm at because my time started late, but I will stop in a minute. But it is consequential, because if it is a cost to the ratepayer because we're going for a 5-year PBR instead of a 3-year PBR, that needs to be factored into our thinking in terms of what we need to be able to do. And understanding those differentials, but on the other hand, if having to come back and do PBRs every 2 or 3 years has a cost as well, that has to be factored in. These are all things we need to be able to understand.
Right.
So, good. I'm seriously out of time. Councillor Paquette.
Yeah, thank you. So one of the concerns I have is that, I've been sitting on this committee for about 3 years, a little over 3 years, and it took a while to really wrap my head around a lot of these things, and I'm still learning. And I think that it put me on for another 3 years, and I'll still be learning. So I'm just looking at this report and the decisions that are implicated in it, and we've got councillors who've been doing this for a few months, and I'm not sure if this is like a report that actually gives them the adequate information they need to make an informed decision, especially with the questions surrounding, just the way that these numbers were derived. And so I'm just wondering if EPCOR has a response to that.
Well, we certainly do. I guess we thought this, from our perspective, was probably the most straightforward approach. And, in comparison, if we were to go and hire a cost of capital expert and do the formal process that's done with the AUC, it gets very heavy into financial theory and, the capital asset pricing model and things like that. And it becomes a very dense discussion where we thought this provided the right levels. So we can certainly...
Okay, sure, but do you see my point? So you've got elected officials who are tasked with reviewing this information, and let's just take any kind of professional person walking down the street, plop them into this room, present them with this report. Do you feel that you would have given them the essential understanding they would need to make a decision?
I think they would have to have some financial background, in all honesty.
Yes.
So we can take that away and try
questions around how the numbers were derived at. That throws another wrench into it, and I don't know, Mr. Beckett, do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, I sort of thought that was one of the main reasons why I've been hired, was to help people who don't have a strong regulatory background understand the regulatory principles and process.
Right, and you're doing that, and what I'm hearing is caution and a little bit of doubt, and I shared it as well, but your understanding of the depth of that is far greater than mine. So,
but sir, you have to appreciate
forward.
You have to appreciate that EPCOR isn't asking you for a decision right now.
I
They're
know,
only
but
providing
we will be
information.
asked for a decision. This is some base information that we're going to need. So, what is the best path in your mind for moving forward on this?
Well, I think that the AUC has set the 2021 generic rate of return number. They did that recently. So that's a good starting point. And then I think EPCOR really needs to flesh out their narrative around what the different risks are from the AUC regulated utilities and give us their thoughts on what they think that results in as far as additional return requirements. Then as a committee, you'll be able to look at that and determine the reasonableness and either adjust it up or down or approve it as is.
That sounds really reasonable to me. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Walters.
So my question then on risk and the difference between the water side and the drainage side. So from a layman's perspective, it would seem to me that there's a little bit more risk associated with the drainage piece because it's a recently inherited, or transferred over set of assets. You did mention the odor work, some significant renewal that's underway, unpredictable. It's kind of one of those things you don't know what you get, what you're in for until you're down there. Some of these deep trunks and shafts. So maybe just, and I know you talked about that a bit in the presentation, and it all went by a little bit fast. So I would start with EPCOR, and then I'll ask Mr. Beckett if we should be looking at those two pieces differently. But to start with Daryl and Connie.
Well, our view is that drainage is certainly a riskier business overall, and for the items that you've mentioned, as well as the fact that, as we spoke to in our presentation, that they're much longer lived assets. So we're carrying them for a longer period of time, and it's a much higher percentage of contributed assets. And so I think everyone's aware, but those are paid for typically by the development community. They're transferred to us. We're expected to maintain them, but ultimately we don't earn a return on those assets. And the fact of the matter is, of the three utilities, drainage is probably, it needs the most attention in terms of refurbishment and replenishment of things. And so just on that basis, it's certainly riskier to operate. So
right, and disaggregating that risk and spelling it out to committee through the process, the filing may be easier on the drainage side than it is on the water side.
Absolutely, but there's obviously inherent risk as well in the PBR structure in the water side and the wastewater side, so we will certainly articulate that.
And just to add, so if you compare drainage to water and then to the electric distribution company, drainage has about 70% contributed assets where we don't earn a return. Water has about 30%, and the electricity side, it's about 10%. So there's quite a difference.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Mr. Beckett, anything to add there?
No, I think those are fair comments. It's always been a significant regulatory issue around assets that have zero rate base value, but an obligation to take the risks associated with continuing to operate them. So that's a very good discussion to have.
Okay, so, and then again, understanding, sort of disaggregating the risk on the assets that don't have a rate base. So there's clearly a financial risk because you're not, there's costs to maintain those, but there's no rate base, so that's clear. But beyond that, so it just seems like a pure financial risk. So you can cover that off with a premium. But are there other risks that aren't apparent beyond, or apparent to my brain at the moment beyond just the financial ones?
But I think it always boils down to a financial risk.
Yeah. I realize that as those words came out of my mouth. I should, you know, what I mean ultimately is, yeah, I guess even the question, the right way to ask the question about the difference between those two utilities is still a little bit lost on me, even though we know that the risks are greater in drainage. I'm still not fully clear on that, and so maybe that's just part of the work that we need to, when we bring back the filing, is to really spell that out.
I think that's part and parcel of the discussion around the risk premium.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks.
That's all the questions I'm seeing, and I would say, I mean, I think, and just to confirm with you, Mr. Beckett, in saying that we don't need to do all the work around the cost of capital, that work we're trusting the AUC has done their homework on. That's not, I think, what we're asking for here. We need to understand the difference between EPCOR as utility and the other utilities that are using that straight AUC cost of capital, understanding what that risk does to EPCOR's cost of capital. That's all we really need to understand here in a way that we can quantify, or at least understand even in a narrative form, a bit more than we have so far. Am I capturing it?
For me, you are. The AUC, accepting the AUC generic rate of return has always been a pretty easy concept. It's really anything up over and above the AUC rate of return needs a description.
Right, so we don't need to establish the cost of capital here. We can accept the AUC's cost of capital. We need to understand how risk varies that in terms of EPCOR's rate of return, based on what the other utilities, the risks that they take. That's all we really need to understand here, correct?
That would be my recommendation,
Okay,
yes.
great, and I think that should be doable. I think there's, whether or not we can quantify it precisely, but even hearing a narrative around that, so we understand what risks you're taking that an ATCO isn't taking, I think would be really helpful to help us be able to adjudicate this a bit more than we've been able to do in the past. So great, thanks. So any more questions on this one? I'm going to suggest that we probably, rather than plowing through, we probably should, let's just take a short break if that's okay. We've been at this for a while. So why don't we take 10 minutes and then we'll do the final piece of the puzzle, just because we need our minds clear. So great, thanks. So
Ben, you're just talking about the questions on the efficiency factor next?
Oh, no, if you have questions on the efficiency factor, they're part of this report. The next one is on the variable, the ratio variable to fixed rates.
Oh, yes, okay, thanks.
So did anybody have any questions on the efficiency factor? I think, Mr. Beckett, did you have any thoughts on that? I think to my eye, what's being proposed is fair, but.
No, I didn't have any questions.
Yeah, great, thanks. Okay, then let's just take 10 minutes. We'll come back at 5 after. final piece of the puzzle. Hopefully we will sit here with fixed rather than variable attention.
Carmen, if you could advance the slides, please. So the second item we're presenting on this afternoon is another motion from Utility Committee that came out after the last PBR, and it really asked us to investigate possible changes to the rate structure to deal with changes in water consumption volume. And I think everyone's aware, but just to level set, volume changes are really driven by a number of things, but there's a long-term decline in water consumption driven by changes in technology. Obviously, there's increased awareness of conservation, weather-related fluctuations, and all of those really impact the utility's revenue stability. And over the longer term, if these aren't addressed somehow, ultimately the viability of the utility can be challenged. And so we looked at a number of ways to bring back some of the options to address this. And the one we're speaking to, of course, is the fixed variable component of the rate structure, but we did look at other mechanisms that other utilities have used, and those are deferral accounts, revenue adjustment mechanisms. There's a whole host of things that address this issue. But fixed variable is the only one that doesn't introduce volatility into the rates. And one of the central tenets, of course, of our PBR is predictable and stable rates. And so if we were to introduce deferral accounts, we would be collecting revenue that we didn't achieve because of consumption changes in future periods, and the ratepayers would see the rates go up and down quite a bit. And we know that's not where we want to go. So our focus was really on the fixed variable component. And if you look at where we're at today, water's at 15% fixed. And this is over the 2017 to 21 PBR, so it does take out some of the variability from weather and those types of things. Wastewater is at just under 17%. And then in comparison, drainage overall is 55% fixed. And of course, storm is 100%, which drives it up, but even the sanitary side is 32%. And it's interesting to note that that's a direct outcome of a decision that was made by Utility Committee back in 2013 as part of the cost of service study. It was an increase in fixed rates from 15 to 30. So I believe this is not a new issue to Utility Committee. Where you compare our fixed rates to surrounding communities, and this is residential average bills, that, as I said, we're at 17, and you can see Vancouver's 31, Calgary's 39, Regina's 46. So the average overall is 30, but if you look at just those communities that are above where we're at in Edmonton, it's 37%. So our 17 is significantly below where other communities are at. And then the other side of the equation is when you look at what's our revenue requirement composition. I mean, generally what you would want to do is match fixed to fixed, meaning fixed revenue generation versus fixed cost, variable revenue generation versus variable cost. But in fact, we're the exact opposite. On the water side, and this is the 2019 progress report numbers, so they reconcile back to that. 85% of the costs on the water side are fixed, 15% variable, and slightly higher fixed on the wastewater side. So I said it's almost exactly the opposite of the revenue side. And that's where this whole issue of revenue stability and the impact on the utility comes about, because our costs remain fixed, but the revenue does go up and down. So we looked at the impact of two different options to address this in terms of the fixed variable split. The first one was moving to an overall 20% fixed revenue. And what that would mean is the 35% increase in fixed service charges for water ratepayers on the residential side, and overall, and 19% on the wastewater side. And of course, there would be a corresponding decrease in the variable rates, because the revenue requirement, or the revenue that we collect, ultimately would be the same. It's just the percentage we carry from fixed versus variable. The other option we looked at is moving to 25% fixed, and so that would be a 70% increase in the fixed service charge to water ratepayers and a 52% on the wastewater side. So in terms of the impact of moving, and we picked 25% for this, the impact of doing that, we feel it's brings us more in alignment with cost of service principles, so we're charging higher fixed charges to all customers, including those in the lower volume tiers, is a better reflection of the cost of providing service, given that the majority of our costs are fixed. Greater alignment with comparable communities, and it really is a very modest decrease in our revenue stability or the variability. And the 5.7% we have here is based on the fact that if we were to implement a 25% based on the 17 to 21 PBR, we would collect $2.8 million more than we would for a given change in consumption over that 5-year period on the water side and 1.5. So just to put that into perspective, the total revenue requirement over the 5-year period in water is just over $1 billion. So changing the system to look at 2.8 million is really 0.3%. So it's a movement in the right direction, but it's certainly not going to say, well, we've taken all the variability that is a risk to us out of the system. If you look at the average residential bill, a low consumption customer would see an increase under this scenario of $3.42, pardon me. Medium, where the vast majority are, it's essentially revenue neutral. And a high volume consumption customer would see a decrease in their average bill of $9.33. And then comparably on the wastewater side, a low consumption customer would see an increase of $1.87, a medium increase of 0.95 or 95 cents, and a high volume customer of $1.35 reduction. That, at a very high level, is what was in our report.
Thank you for that. Questions from, I'm not seeing the little thingy yet. Let me see if I can pull it up on my, no, I don't have anybody. Anybody else with questions about this? Or maybe I'll leap in. I guess it seems to me, from a, in principle, lining up the variable rate with the and fixed rate with what's actually a variable expense and a fixed expense makes absolute sense to me. And the reason I'm trying to imagine the reasons why we didn't do it, why we moved away from this, because at one point we did have a fixed rate for water. A lot of people had no meters. Was because we were trying to encourage behavior. It was mostly behavioral, correct?
Correct. Absolutely true.
Although it's also interesting looking at the drainage piece, because arguably, although it looks like it's fixed, people do have a choice about how much they use, because their choice is how much land they have. And if they want to pay less drainage, less land, you can still have the same size of house, less land. So they do have some control over how much they use or don't use.
Right.
And I'm guessing from a utility point of view, that's part of the principle as well. Is if it truly is a utility, you want to give people some control over use and how much they use and how much they pay as a result, correct?
Absolutely, but then there's also, at the end of the day, we have to average things across rate classes because it just becomes too onerous to try to get individual or very defined rate classes.
So there's a balance of different intent here, one of which is you do want to encourage less use. That has advantages, I would think.
Yes.
And if we swing too far, you may lose that, which will cost you in other ways.
Yeah, and our view is that if we were to go to 25%, it's still a relatively small component, and it would not impact the conservation that we're trying to achieve.
Well, and if we can't achieve conservation, if there's no reason to conserve, that could create significant increase in fixed capital costs because you'd have to build more water treatment plants, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there are implications to not controlling use.
Exactly.
that ironically would raise the fixed cost and not the variable cost. Okay. My one other question on this, because I think this makes sense, and I would like to hear what Mr. Beckett has to say about it. My one other question about this, though, is in doing the shift, it feels like we end up inadvertently punishing the people who have behaved the best, and we're giving the biggest benefit to the people that are, and it could be fairly significant for some of the big users, I suspect. We're giving them a break, and I'm wondering if there's a way that we could do the shift, but counter, and I haven't worked this out in my own mind, but counter that effect by doing something with the sliding scale on the rates that could at least mean that people were starting from the place they are now, and you're not seeing increases or decreases, an increase for the low volume user and a decrease for the high volume user. Is there a way to level that?
There probably is, but you may have noted at the beginning of our report, one of the things we said in the upcoming PBR application, we're trying not to make a lot of rate changes.
Right.
And that's just because of forecast risk. We not only have to forecast over the next 5 years on the current classes of customers. If we started breaking up consumption blocks or saying, well, we're going to have 3 different types of commercial customers, that increases the forecast risk because we don't have a normal historic pattern over the past year. Commercial, for example, is down 35%, and we'd have to now slot that into the new categories. So we thought it's better to postpone that to the next PBR term.
Yeah, I just I asked the question in some ways because it would be nice to be able to move down this road without shifting rates for people, and as a transitional move, understanding that over time, what happens to their rates in the future is obviously going to change on a different level based on this shift. But it'd be nice to at least start them where they are today. But it may not be possible. With my dying seconds, Mr. Beckett, did you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, this is always a tough go. If you mentioned that it seems like we're punishing the people who are behaving properly, but those people have been getting a break on their rates for the last several years.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So what comes around goes around. Usually the uproar that accompanies increasing the fixed component of the rate comes from those on low and fixed incomes, because they will usually see more proportionately more of an impact than other customers. And then my final comment is that changing the fixed and variable ratio changes the utility risk and should be factored into the discussion we had over the last hour.
Yeah, we certainly recognize that, and one of our analysis will look at what is the fixed variable split on the electricity side, because you're absolutely right, and just going from memory, but I believe it's significantly higher than anything we're proposing or talking about here, and so that's one of the factors that leads to our higher risk premium, irrespective of what we do.
No, absolutely, and and distribution is different from transmission is different. I mean, it plays out in different ways on that side too.
Yeah.
And gas the same. I'm aware of that. Good. Those are my questions, and I'm out of time. Councillor McKean.
Let me preface my questions by saying that the chair of this committee dragged me kicking and screaming onto the committee. So if I ask dumb questions, it's his fault.
That's the fun of this committee, is there are no dumb questions.
So first question to our EPCOR representatives. A little bit of history on this report. Are you bringing this report as a request, or were you asked by committee to bring this report?
We were asked to look at ways to address declining consumption by the committee. It was a direction about 3 or 4 years ago, and so it's a direct response to a request.
Thank you. This reminds me a little bit of our photo radar discussions. We get revenue from photo radar, but ultimately want to have fewer people speeding, and so we want to have reduced consumption, that would seem to me to be a worthy overall goal. And you're saying that that will impact the integrity of the utility, though, is that right?
Over the long term, because there's been a decline in consumption for 20 years and a lot of variability in that. And so this is just one of the mechanisms to ensure that we have revenue stability going forward, so that we do have the money to invest in the system and keep it in the condition that it is in today.
Thank you. That was a really good plain language answer, by the way. I appreciate that. And so the other issue I see here as a layman is that we want to make sure, though, that we're sending the right signals to the consumers, and so that they continue with that behavior we would like them to continue with. So I'm intrigued with that, and also Mr. Beckett's last comments about how people on, we could end up punishing people who are on the lower end of the socioeconomic spectrum. Any comments on that? That was to you, to EPCOR folks, not to Mr. Beckett.
Sorry. I guess the one thing that we've never been able to determine is, are low-income people, in fact, the low-volume consumers? And there's a lot of studies that will say, no, they're not, in fact. Unfortunately, they tend to have the lesser efficient appliances and more leaks in, their plumbing and those types of things, where it's people with the more efficient appliances, the new washers and dryers, who are, in fact, the lower consumption customers.
The fancy new toilets and all that stuff that might reduce their, right. Okay, thank you very much.
Hey, thanks. I'm not seeing anybody else. Maybe just to add to, I'm remembering back why we asked for this, Councillor McKean, if it helps, and I think it was in part because everybody was doing such a good job at saving that we were having to hit them with big rate increases anyway, because it didn't save us on the fixed costs. So it felt like it might be time to apportion this differently and to recognize these fixed costs, because we couldn't keep the rates down anyway, because one way or another, those fixed costs had to be covered. So it felt like it was time to have a look at that. So there's no way that the rates would not go up. This just felt like it might be a more sane way of distributing and distributing those rates between people. So that's my memory. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my recollection as well.
Yeah. So it's so I guess if any of us have any hesitation with that right now as a strategy, now is the time to say so. If we think it's more important to keep the incentive on the variable rate, then this would be the time to say it. But it doesn't mean that rates will stay down. The rates will still have to go up. They'll just go up in a different way. Not hearing anything? So
I'll jump in just really quickly, just so that the point is made. And that is that like $15 doesn't sound like a lot of money. But for folks on low income and with decreasing income, especially if they're on some sort of provincial supports, that is the difference between being able to eat in the final week of the month or not. So these are really serious concerns to take under consideration. And so the desire to take a look at this was a very, very responsible one as far as those who are struggling. And we know that in these times, due to economic uncertainty, more and more people are falling into a position of not having food or having to choose between food and some other necessity. And not many people can, a lot of people can go without meals for a bit, but they can't go without, being able to heat their place, depending on what they use, or to drink water or whatever they're doing, or keep clean. And so I'm not sure if we've truly addressed it in the way that we wanted to, and I would love to hear some thoughts on that.
Is that directed to EPCOR or in?
You know, anyone can pick that up if you've got a good answer, because I don't have an answer.
Well, we certainly recognize everything that you've just said, Councillor Paquette, and we do agree with it. I guess my one question, you said $15 was what I heard. What did that refer to?
Oh, I was just pulling a number out of the air.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, because what we're talking about is
accrued,
three.
Let's just call it accrued extra costs over time.
Okay. You know, what we were talking about at 25% was $3 from what, you know, we should be based on the risk we're taking on, and that's purely driven by all the factors that you've just mentioned. Because if we came in and we said, well, we want to earn the full ROE on drainage from year one, that would be a significant rate increase. And so what we're trying to do is balance rate increases with maintaining the reliability of the system.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. There's no perfect answer, but we do the best we can. All right, thank you.
Can I do a double check on where this goes next? Because you have two options here, three options. One is we leave it as it is. Two, we do a 20% shift. Two, we shift to 20%. Two, we shift to 25%. So had you had thoughts on which of those options you're likely to bring forward, or did you want some feel from us?
Our current thinking is 25%.
Okay.
So that's what we would build into our PBR application.
So the only reason to do 20 would be that you could stagger this in. Eventually you would get to 25. So the only question would be, do you do 20 now and 25% next time? Or is the idea to do 25% now and then maybe move the bar again 5 years from now?
We would have to look at it in 5 years, but as I mentioned at the outset, we're at 17 now, and we thought moving to 20%
20 is
really
meaningless.
didn't do anything.
Okay. Well, I'm inclined, I don't know how others feel about it, but I'm inclined to think that this is the right way to go, given where we're at right now. So, but if somebody feels otherwise, please say so. Councillor McKeon.
Yeah, and I just want to double check. There was a fairly minor impact on the overall bottom line. Is that right?
Yes, if we had fixed rates over the 5 years of the current PBR at 25%, we would have gained $2.8 million. And again, that's in comparison to a $1 billion revenue requirement over the 5 years, so it really is 0.3%. So from a revenue stability, this change really doesn't do an awful lot, but I think it's a move in the right direction of where we may have to get to.
Is it possible that this would also be of benefit to certain sectors in our business community?
Yes.
Right. And those that might pay more won't pay you use $3. I don't know if that's what you meant, but it's going to be pennies to small number of dollars per month extra?
It really depends on where their current consumption is.
Okay.
And in both the multi-residential and the commercial, there's a wide variation of levels of consumption. And so it's very difficult to say, well, it impacts this particular customer group one way because the consumption is so different.
But the craft brewers will be happy.
Yes.
And you can ask them for your beer to go down in the future.
Yeah. I'll just speak to it very briefly because I don't have a ton to say, but, when I thought the one answer that, in fact, lower families of lower economic, socioeconomic status may not actually be the lowest users, that was interesting to me too. And I think we know that from the garbage or waste that's put out too as well. So I'm not opposed to this, Mr. Chair, the 25%. So I'll support it.
Great, thanks. Well, I think it's really just kind of in a straw poll at this point. I don't think you're not expecting direction.
No.
It was just to get it, if we had strong feelings about this, now would be the best time to say, I think is probably the best way to put it.
Yes.
And, for the intermediate user, there will be no change.
That's
It's-
correct.
Yeah, they're going to pay, it won't shift at all. And that 2.8 million that you saved was because you overestimated water usage in the last PBR.
The forecast was wrong based on the
So
variability.
if the forecast was right or had been in the other direction, it would have played out differently, so.
Correct.
Great, thanks. All right, well, if there's anybody else wants to weigh in, Councillor Walters, did you want to?
Yeah, sorry, I clicked on, but, and forgive me, I missed part of the debate because I had a thing come up here, but I caught the end of it around the cost impacts, but I just wanted to state that I don't feel too much concern about the 25%, just to put that on the record. I know we've discussed this before, and that does provide a little bit more certainty for the utility. So I think that's probably a wise decision. And if there's any risks with that, more than are in this report and discussion when we actually decide on it, those would be also good to have spelled out for us. Thanks.
Anybody else? Councillor Banga, I see your mic is on. Did you have or are you good?
No, I'm good.
Okay, great.
Just wanted to receive it for information, I guess.
That's what I was going to ask next. If there's no further questions, thanks everybody for hanging in for that extra bit, but I think it was important. Mr. Beckett, any last thoughts? I'm assuming not. Oh,
No, thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Great, thank you. All right, then it is moved. Receipt for information. Hearing no further discussion, I think that's what EPCOR needed from us. Let me get to the right place so I can vote. Please vote.
We have all the votes except for Councillor McKeon's.
Danny, I thought you had made this technology work perfectly today. But it didn't work for me just now, but I'm a yes.
Good.
But it's been good, right?
I thought you were a miracle worker, but now I can't say that about you. Sorry.
All right, display the vote. And that is passed. Great, thanks everyone. It was a good day's work. We actually did a fair bit and we're done. And go enjoy your weekend. But I should check to see if there's any notices of motion. I didn't think so. Have a good weekend.
Have a good one.